with their grieved parents and students. They have done so out of respect for President William Ruto, who is in the county to preside over the opening of the 10th annual Devolution conference. The students of the education program, however, pleaded with the president to intervene to enable them get a refund. The Finland Canada education program by the county had put the leadership of the devolved unit on the spot. And Health CS Susan Nakhumicha has called on Kenyans whose loved ones were being treated at Mathare Hospital and have recovered to pick them up. Speaking during a visit at the facility, Nakhumicha said it was unfortunate that several patients had complained about being abandoned by their loved ones even after reaching out to them.
Ni kuwarahi wa Kenya wale ambao wako na ugonjwa wao hapa na wagonjwa wametibiwa wamepona, waje wachukue wagonjwa wao. Tumekubaliana na CEO tutatengeneza ratiba ya wale ambao tuko na contacts kupitia kwa ministry yangu tuweze kuwa contact, tuambie wagonjwa wao wako tayari kurudi nyumbani. Na kuna wale ambao wamepona, wazazi na wale wanaishi nao wameelezwa na wamekataa kuja kuwachukua, na hilo si jambo nzuri.
She further promised to ensure an increase in the number of specialists and medication at the facility in order to improve health services.
Kuna upungufu wa madaktari hapa Mathare. So mimi kama waziri naenda kuhakikisha ya kwamba, na tumeshaangalia bajeti pamoja na CEO, tunaweza andika madaktari wachache wa kuweza kufill up that gap. Jambo la pili ni kwamba kuna upungufu wa dawa ambazo zinatumika na wagonjwa ambao wanaonekana hapa. Ninaenda kuongea na KEMSA ili tuhakikishe ya kwamba hizo dawa, kwa sababu ni dawa za muhimu sana, ya kwamba zinawekwa kwenye list ya KEMSA na wanaweza kusupply hapa.
Catholic bishops have raised concerns over the introduction of sex education in the curriculum. Led by Bishop Paul Kariki, the leaders say the content already taught in school, especially in grade 7, isn't acceptable as it exposes minors to the use of contraceptives, leading to high rates of teenage pregnancies and abortion. The leaders now want the Ministry of Education to recall the inclusion of reproductive and sex education in the curriculum.
Introduction of comprehensive sex education defies the narrative sold to Kenyans that the competence-based curriculum is based on values and any education given would be age appropriate.
We urge that the ministry moves with speed and initiates the removal of substrand 7.2 on reproductive health from all the learning materials and withdrawal of the mentioned books and any other book in the market that contains similar contents.
I'm Dennis Asato. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It gets over. Can you imagine in 20 minutes what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Or should you have a lioness living in your bedroom? I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to, she's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
So who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk that midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Nairobi Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation.
We are at Wednesday. Yes, we are. And the streets are looking like they will be giving some activity today. Let's look at what's going on the southern bypass, getting into the city. That looks all right, at least for now. Gong Road, then coming off onto the CBD. There's a little bit of traffic coming then in from Haile Selassie, and that comes in from Kamkunji at the junction, but we're all right with that. Okay, on the Thika Superhighway, not much movement happening right about now. And on Jogo Road, as you get towards Landis, we'll see a little bit of that going towards Kamkunji. But apart from that, folks, I've been able to get where they're going really quickly this morning. We're not going to see traffic hour kick in until much later on, but it looks like we're starting off Wednesday just right. What's going on where you are this morning? How about we take a look at that in about half an hour and see how things will progress. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving this Wednesday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
Good morning
is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Now, according to my o'clock, 11 minutes after 6 o'clock. How are you doing this Wednesday morning? Karibu and welcome. The weather is getting warmer, or am I just experiencing my own things?
No, it is getting warmer.
In it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You in it, inakuwa warmer.
The weather in it imekuwa warmer in it. It is getting warmer, and it's you know, it's nice. I did enjoy the cold, I won't lie. But you know, let's see how that opens up. City.
Yes.
As you unpack your thing, okay, I'm counting 1 book, 2, 3 books.
Let me not limit your counting to 5. Feel free.
Thank you very much. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Uko salama?
I am well.
Okay, good to see you, man.
Asante sana.
Karibu. All right, so here we are in the middle of the week. It's Wednesday, and quite a number of things are going on. Devolution conference happening in Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County. There are things that are happening here. Power bills skyrocketing, fuel subsidies then been applied. Everything coming around to conversations that can then be had about what is going on in Kenya, and that's why we are here. Everybody, good morning and welcome to the Situation Room. Hope you're doing well today, and thanks for joining us. We're going to get into some interesting conversations today. One of them is looking at the life and times of somebody who has been able to scale certain heights as a woman, as a practitioner, and many would argue an expert in the financial world. At 7 a.m. Mary Wamai will be with us. She is the Group Executive Director of Equity Group Holdings PLC, and she'll talk about her experiences having grown up in rural Kenya, coming into the city and then holding one of the highest seats in Equity, and we'll be going through her experience today. All right, at 8 o'clock, Vihiga County Senator will be here in the hot seat, and we'll be talking about a year on with what seems to be an endless duel between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, and where we are today with so many things having coming in, the bipartisan talks, this, that, the other thing, mandamano or no mandamano, bipartisan talks now to sort those things out, and we will be having that conversation at 8 o'clock. All right. The Devolution Conference gets into its second day today, and key conversations are being had about what needs to happen moving forward as far as counties are concerned in the development agenda of Kenya. Peter Moshendu, who is a political analyst, will join us, and he'll talk about the need for transparency and accountability in the counties. We'll look at that, what it has been, what it is, and where it is going. Those are the conversations that we will be having today, and we go through them bit by bit. All right, for now, we can see that you guys are online already. We're going to say hello to you in a moment after we take a look at what the weather has in store for us today. It's getting round to 6:15 o'clock. Okoh and CT Muga with you on Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation.
15 degrees and partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We'll see highs of 28 in a partly cloudy Nakuru at 13. It's cloudy at 14 in Nyeri, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 25 in a mostly clear Eldoret at 11. It's 24 and partly cloudy at 20 in Mombasa, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in a partly cloudy Malindi. It's 19 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 30 in a partly cloudy Kakamega at 17. It's 19 and clear in Kampala, highs of 29, and it'll go to highs of 29 as well in a partly cloudy Dar es Salaam at 23. It's 6 degrees and mostly clear in Johannesburg, highs of 21, and Lagos will see highs of 29, where it's currently cloudy at 24. Kinshasa's clear at 23, highs of 32 and lows of 22, and looking into a sunny Beijing Wednesday afternoon already, it's 34 degrees, highs of 35 and lows of 26. It's 18 and cloudy in Paris, highs of 26 and lows of 17, and at 15 degrees it's cloudy at London, highs of 25 and lows of 15. New York Tuesday night is cloudy at 23. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 28 and lows of 21.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
6 o'clock. Good morning to everybody kicking it and welcoming you into the room today. Where is Eric? All right, the Devolution Conference kicked off this week. Eric is in Uasin Gishu County at the Devolution Conference. He will be there until the end of the week, and then he will be back, and then we will continue like he never left. Okay? Sawa sawa. James Mukabana says, good morning, CT and Ndu. Tuned in from Udhero. Looking forward to an elevated conversation as usual. Karibu Sana James, ready to kick it off with you this morning. Another James, in the name of Jimmy, says, good morning, Spice. And you guys do an incredible job. Thank you, sir. I love the show every morning. You are on your way to Munich from Amsterdam. Okay, no, let's change it. From Munich to Amsterdam. Isn't it? I wish you all a blessed day. Have a blessed day too. Tupac Shakur. He never dies, man. He says, Habari ya wananchi. Wananchi?
Jambo.
Thank you. All right. He's live in Quebec in Canada. Okay. Now, Don Sabo is speaking to us in vernacular. And he says, in Malawi, greetings, we answer Zikomo Kwambiri when greeted Zikomo. Okay. So, CT, Zikomo?
Zikomo Kwambili.
Thank you very much.
Kwambili ama Kwambili?
Well, there's an R, so I'm going to say Re. If it was meant to be an L, I do not know.
Is it one of those R's that are pronounced as an L?
Now, this is the problem. It's very possible.
So let's just read it as it is written.
As it is written is Kwambiri.
Then it is Kwambiri.
Or he says, or Muli Bwanji.
Muli Bwanji.
You answer Ndi Bueno, Kaya Inu. Si tumepata? Muli Bwanji, then you answer what?
Kala Inu.
Very good. You're such a good student. City, well done. I'm very proud of you this morning. So George Gashoiri is tuned in from Manchester. Dismas Omboya says, good morning, Ndu and CT. We need someone to differentiate for us the fuel subsidy and stabilization. Isn't it? Okay.
There's nothing to explain. It's the same thing.
Stabilization and fuel subsidy is more or less the same thing.
Not more or less.
Yeah.
It is the same thing.
Because what a subsidy does is that it steps in to stabilize so that you don't feel that extra cost, right? That extra.
And then somebody also introduced the fuel development levy. You know, remember my view on this matter of subsidy.
You've never liked it?
Not liked it. I don't understand it completely. How do you say you're subsidizing something we are paying for?
Because they're putting in money because
which money?
Didn't.
The money which they have already loaded onto the fuel. Oh, is this? You see, in my mind, and I suspect I'm ignorant about this subject. I actually suspect that I am treating this subject as I would 1 + 1, and this one is probably 1 times 50.
Right.
Okay. When you are taxed through your fuel, landing cost is one thing, what you pay is another, and they've added this tax and exercise and the one which is not exercising and what, all those things, development, road maintenance, all those things. So when you then tell me that you are subsidizing, I assume that the money you're speaking of has nothing to do with the money that we've already paid for as we buy our fuel. So now if you come back and say, yes, we are stabilizing it through the levy that you've used, I ask the question again. So when you've been talking about subsidizing, what exactly have you meant by this?
And we also would need to understand the component upon which the subsidy then would be applied.
Yes.
For you to know then actually really how much money is being applied.
And if you're saying stabilizing, is there not some money that is deducted or is loaded onto the fuel, which is meant to cater for the fluctuations of the exchange of the Kenyan shilling against the dollar or something of that sort? So unless you can explain all those levies and duties and costs and whatever else taxes that we pay just by virtue of fueling our vehicles, I dare say I am of the opinion, and I remain to be of the opinion, that you are telling us you're subsidizing something we already paid for, and I don't understand it.
The question is there really a subsidy? Yes. If we're going to get into the realms of conspiracy this morning, it's still before coffee and 7 o'clock city. Just wait a minute. Dismas has raised a very important question here, as he has greeted us. Something to think about, and maybe a further conversation that we should actually have. Sindio? All right. Okay. The 2000. Habari ya asubuhi Ndu and Mwalimu CT. Salama sana. Aluman Jr. says, good morning, Spice. My favorite station, the hot seat, by asking them hard questions. Yes, we'll do that. Following from Human Claw in Washington State is Joe Mungai. He says, we have uniformly and effectively, but shamelessly devolved corruption and given some people and their families time to eat. Happy Wednesday. Whoa. All right. You're awake. Good morning, strong team. Ednah, please play the song Count Your Blessings by Lamborghini and Beanie Man. Hey. Just that's your assignment. Ednah, good morning. John Vukaya is tuned in from Kiambu. Mpenda Amani is also tuned in, listening in every morning from Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you, sir. Good morning. Karibu Sana, tuned in from Phoenix. Good work. Thank you. CT and Ndu watching from Malaba, Kenya. Thanks for the good work you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Jemima Omamo is tuned in from Dallas, Texas. Everybody, welcome and Karibuni Sana to the Situation Room. All right. Today's proverb, still from Niger City. City is under the table.
No, I'm not under the table.
Okay, please. There you are. You are back.
Please don't go around misinforming people.
Okay. Now, tell us today's proverb.
This one I've always found interesting.
Wait. Okay. I have to say good morning to Kaiser Obed.
Please.
Kaiser is online this morning. He's seen us. He has woken up. He's ready to go. Kaiser, good morning. Karibu. Asante. Alonzi.
I can now go.
You can.
I can continue. I can utter the proverb.
Please.
All right. I shall utter the proverb. All right. You know, this one I've always found interesting. A piece of wood that has been burnt easily catches fire. This is a proverb that is similar to one that we read from Togo a long time ago.
Because it's become charcoal.
That, I think, would be one interpretation. Or it has been warmed, and if it's been warmed, any dampness that the wood would have no longer exists. So if it doesn't have, if there's no dampness, it's very easy for it to.
If it's dry, it can catch fire really quickly.
Easily. These raging forest fires that we have during dry seasons lend credence to this particular reality, doesn't it?
It does. So if everything has balanced at the right time, then it's very easy for you to strike, and the situation cannot come about as a result of that.
Easily.
Burnt wood, it's dry, it's ready to go. Strike a match and we're golden.
It'll burn.
How are your situations this morning? All right, let's take a look at what's going on in the headlines. The Standard, where are they? You ask who? All right. After leading an acrimonious split over the 2023 presidential poll result, the Cherera 4 commissioners were forced out of office. Yesterday, Azimio leader Raila Odinga revealed that Juliana Cherera and Irene Masit had fled to the US fearing reprisals. Well, if they were supposed to be hiding, now you know where they are. So we'll look into that story. Echoes of BBI as MPs secure talks in the House. There's a picture of the majority leader there, Kimani Ichung'wah. Okay, we'll have a conversation about that. Kenya risks IMF wrath on subsidy. You see the subsidy and stabilization that you were just talking about? It would appear as though IMF is saying, you know what, guys? In order to have some kind of fiscal responsibility here, you cannot keep applying subsidies to things.
Who says?
IMF.
Well, we're telling IMF we don't agree with you.
Clearly.
It's not complicated.
But, you know, IMF has been courting Kenya, courting you, even as they court you.
But what sort of courtship is this?
Let me tell you the kind of courtship it is. IMF comes and says, now, Kenya, I want to help you. I want to do like this, I want to do that. But then they also reserve the right. It's like courting a girl. And they say, yes, I like you. Let's go to place ABCD. But then you also reserve the right to tell her, this is how I want you to dress when we go out. This is how I want you to style your hair. This is how I want you to put on your makeup. These are the kind of shoes I want you to wear. In as much as I want you to accept what I'm offering to you, this is the way in which I want you to look. Now, one of those ways in which I want you to look from IMF to Kenya is that you cannot give subsidies. Now, Kenya is not playing by the rules of this romance.
On that note, I agree with the president completely.
Kenya is not playing.
I don't know where it is that IMF gets these rules of theirs from, and where it is they've applied them and where they have worked. I don't know. But what I know is this, if we were to apply these IMF rules to the very letter, what we'd be doing is fermenting revolt.
Yeah.
Yes. So on the one hand, one gives the impression that they're supposed to be friends of the country, but are they really?
That's the question. Somebody who is giving you something that you're going to pay back, and then they give you conditions, are they really your friend? You must ask that question.
You know, there are conditions that could be useful, but this one of theirs,
it's not very useful.
I don't see it. Perhaps with the passage of time, I will receive the gift of sight and I will see it better. But right now, I don't see it.
But you will see CT.
I don't see it.
Most counties are yet to stabilize health services a decade later. We are looking into the Devolution Conference, the 8th Devolution Conference taking place in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. And that's one of the stories coming out of there. And we're also seeing that Devolution has opened up spaces for women in leadership. That's another story making the headlines. Ruto, Raila allies unite to lay the ground for talks. They had not united before? Okay. Well, now they're uniting, and we're going to have that conversation also later on today. NSSF records 29.5 billion shillings decrease in returns over stock market slump. Do you know what that means?
No.
So, you pay money to NSSF every month, n'est-ce pas? This money in most cases is taken and it is reinvested. That's the money essentially that when you then retire, the benefits that you get later on in life, they now are able to pay out as a result of the investments that they have made over time. Now they're saying they've seen a decrease in the money that they've gotten on returns because they invest some of this money in the stock market, etc., etc. Now it seems that some of the money that they were expecting is not coming.
It's not. Why?
I'll tell you the details of the story if I get a chance. Some other headlines. TVET's enrollment hits 320,000 as CS Mashogu eyes greener jobs. Now, green environment, climate jobs. Now, the data commissioner is now telling the House being Parliament, that WorldCoin defied our orders. So apparently there was an order, they were supposed to do certain things or not do others, and they did and they did not. So they misbehaved.
This WorldCon had they not been here for close to a year?
Yes, those are the reports that we're also
getting. Before this expose
getting.
where one saw long winding queues of people going to have their eyes scanned. Yes.
It's again one of those things where it kind of happens under the radar. You kind of ignore it because you don't think much of it until now, when you see the long winding queues and the citizens' information is getting collected, and then you start to have to ask your questions in terms of what exactly is going on. So a little too late in terms of asking questions when a lot of this information has already been taken. Okay, there are many more headlines taking our column inches this morning, but let's see what you have, CT.
I'm looking at all manner of interesting things, yeah? But top right-hand corner until green in the Star, Mystery of Kiambu gang on a killing spree of villagers over 10 shillings demand. This is a really bizarre story.
10 shillings?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a bizarre story, but I will tell it later.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Agony of shunned and lonely Madara mental patients rejected by their families. The story is on page 3. Okay. State considers shelter for recovered mental patients. It's mental health, the referral mental health facility that we have in the country, how the patients are being managed, handled, what is happening, the individual lives of the patients. Some of these things, when looked at and summed up, it amounts to neglect.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
So, that is something that will be discussed. Azimio and Kenya Kwanza Dialogue Committee to present report in 60 days. Is that same saga of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza meeting to determine whatever it is they're going to determine. We will wait and see.
Okay.
RC pay rise. While police officers will have to wait longer before getting cash.
It's not an immediate thing.
In this country, immediacy means waiting for a shorter time as opposed to waiting for a
longer time.
Yes.
All right.
Half of university students hooked to drugs, says the report. There's bang in the middle of the paper. Bang in bold black. You cannot miss it. Majority of addicts tested positive for heroin and prescription-only drugs.
Heroin?
Heroin. That drug. Now, when you say plus others, my friend, you can only guess.
Good grief.
Yep.
Okay, let's take a break and take a look at what's happening with traffic right about now, and then we'll come back and look at some of these stories in detail. It's 28 minutes to 7 o'clock, having conversations about what's going on in the papers. Let's look at the roads and then come back and continue with that.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's now having increased getting into the city. Jogoo Road started out pretty busy this morning, and we have some movement as well on the southern bypass. Not quite sure what's causing that as you're getting closer to Langata Road right about now. There's some movement in the city coming off of Thika Superhighway. We're seeing that is actually starting to pile up just a tad, but again, nothing really worrisome until you get to the Pangani underpass, and then folks struggling to get through that tunnel out towards Moranga Road or then going towards Wangari Maathai. Apart from that, it looks pretty good. If you're coming off Mombasa Road, you're all right touching on the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, then going through towards other parts of Uhuru Highway and then into the city, out towards Westlands, from Westlands out towards Chiromo, and then into the CBD, you're fine as well. Looks like it'll be a manageable Wednesday. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's talk there as we keep things moving this morning.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This 10 shilling story is a bizarre one. It's completely and absolutely bizarre. Okay? Residents of Ishugi village in Gatundu North, Kiambu County are in shock after 4 men were murdered on Monday night. The 4, Patrick Nguku Ombui, Laban Mwathi, Ernest Mugai, and another only identified as Irungu, a casual laborer in the village, are said to have been on their way home when they were attacked. The motive has not been established. The attackers only aimed at their heads. Villagers found the bodies lying several meters apart when they were walking together. Another victim, identified as Tobias Wanyonyi, escaped with head injuries and was rushed to Gegania Level 4 Hospital where he was treated undischarged. The Sheikh Wanyonyi said his attacker accosted him as he was heading to shop in Ngorongo Center and asked him for 10 shillings. I told him I didn't have the money and he didn't utter any other word. He hit me with a blunt object on my right side of my head, but I managed to escape even though I was in excruciating pain and almost losing consciousness, Wanyonyi said.
Good heavens. 10 shillings.
That's what he asked for. This person, people who ask for 10 shillings, people who ask for small amounts, the small amount you may think is small, but he knows what he needs it for.
Absolutely. And also I was going to say that, it really doesn't matter how much they're asking for. If they're met with, it's the levels of desperation here that we're really looking at. And if they're met with enough resistance, they're going to do whatever they need to do after that to sort out their frustration. It's a frustration. Good heavens. Quite something. Mental health continues to be a conversation that we cannot ignore. All right, let's talk a little bit about at Devolution and see what's carrying the headlines today. And it's a health conversation. Most counties are yet to stabilize health services a decade later. It's a big thing. President Ruto, when he spoke towards streamlining the health sector, when he was opening the Devolution conference in Wasingishu, actually he will open it today officially. He says his administration is going to ensure service delivery by counties, and he wants to ensure that this actually succeeds. He says we're going to support it fully. At the beginning of this year, we paid over 100 billion shillings to the counties. He spoke yesterday during the funeral service of David Chepkwony, husband of Njoro MP Charity Kavambi. Now, let's look at what's actually happening. That it's been a mix of hits and misses for the healthcare system as counties mark a decade since the onset of devolution. While some units may have made some strides to take services close to the people, because that's essentially what happens with devolution, right? You're decentralizing government, you're decentralizing the administration, and you're making sure that people at whatever level are actually able to access what's going on. That is the whole idea of devolving certain functions, right? But unfortunately, when this has happened, it has not happened enough. Understaffing, inadequate funding, unavailability of essential drugs and equipment, and runaway corruption have been cited as the major challenges in the sector. In Baringo, for instance, the main hospital in Cabernet Town is on the verge of collapsing as patients are sent to neighbouring counties to seek medical services. For the past 3 years, patients in need of a CT scan have been travelling to Iten County Referral Hospital in Elgeyo-Marakwet County at their expense, and they have to wait for results to be emailed to the facility. This is the story of many a county where such things continue to happen, where there are not enough drugs, where you're asked to buy your own drugs or your own supplies that you will need. And it goes on across the board. So the question is, even after devolution, 10 years on, why does this continue to be an issue? And it's interesting because every sector that's looked at here, corruption does not run very far from the issue. Runaway corruption, wanton corruption, corruption here, there, and the other place seems to be one of the major challenges towards the smooth running of devolution. It'll be interesting to see what they have to say as we go through this week in terms of what is actually going to be done about this. A healthy nation, a healthy people, essentially are the ones who are developing a nation. If people are sick and cannot get healthcare, then there's a problem. And I really hope that this is being addressed, and addressed not with words, but with action.
You think?
I hope. I'm hoping. And please don't tell me I'm dashing my hopes against this.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, and if one were to see a forward movement, what would it look like in your opinion?
For one, that you could walk into Baringo Referral Hospital, for example, and that the CT scan would be working, and that people who are sick don't have to go all the way to EMC, to the Iten County Referral Hospital, to then be able to get a CT scan and then travel back and then wait for the results to be emailed to them. That is what I would see that would work. That you would go to a dispensary, for example, and that you would be able to find the drugs that you needed. Or even if you went to a county referral hospital, you didn't have to go and buy your own drugs and your gloves and then bring them back for them to treat you. These are very real situations that we're dealing with today. It should not be. It really shouldn't.
In my mind, what it highlights for me is this: there are very many people who want to be governors, and some actually manage to become governors. They're elected, but the job of governor is beyond their capacity completely, because there are counties where you have governors who seem to make things work.
They are,
and this is not a question of the size of the kitty that they have, the size of the no. It's a question of the leadership and how they're able to manage their affairs. That's the only gauge that I have. And if somebody has the position of a governor and everything that they're supposed to manage in their purview seems to be running away from them, it means they're not able to manage it. It's not complicated, and it's not that they are not competent. They are not competent in that particular task. Maybe they were good MPs. Maybe they were good senators.
Yeah.
Maybe they were good managers in some company that they worked. Maybe they were good senior corporate executives somewhere. They were good there. But this specific job of being governor, it is beyond them. They are not able to manage that portfolio. It's simply outside their capacity.
Right. And I think we have very many examples where that actually does show up. And if it's we talk about when you're looking at a terrible thing happening, it's people who move a situation. It's also the same thing for good.
I agree completely.
If you want things to develop, things to happen, the people in positions are the ones who have to move them.
It's people.
So it's very important who you put in a position of leadership. It's very important who you put in the position of executive administration. It's important. Can't work. It's probably going to point back to the individuals who are sitting.
You see, whenever people talk about the people who represent the support structure that a leader has, they also point to the competence of that leader. If you have around you people who, by virtue or by dint of what they have exposed and exhibited as their operational capacity, if there is more incapacity than there's capacity, and it is you who has chosen those people, does it then not point to your capacity for choice?
It does.
Yes. And it speaks very loudly. One doesn't even need to think about it further. One just needs to look and say, I think we have a small issue here.
Story. It's a very short story. It's on 17 on the Standard, but I think it's very important. See if I come back to you.
Please.
Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha has challenged families who have abandoned their kin at Mathare Mental Hospital in Nairobi to pick them and reintegrate them into society. Okay? She was speaking when she made an impromptu visit to the facility. She promised to facilitate decongestion of the hospital, including through devolution of its services to the counties. So essentially that there should be mental health facilities in other counties, and not just once you sniff a mental health problem, people are shipped off to Mathare.
You know, every hospital, what used to be referred to as district hospitals, now referred to as sub-county hospitals, they have departments. You will find, remember when we went to Kilifi, there was a pediatric wing. Okay, there was a wing for maternity.
Yes.
If we had ours, would have been told there's a wing for mental health. Are we therefore saying that these wings should then be fortified? These wings should be given more muscle?
Yes.
They should.
They should. Because think about it now, off the top of your head, once you hear that somebody has a mental health problem, what's the first thing that you think? It's Mathare, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's been made as the place to go, whereas maybe people didn't have to travel so far if they were living in a different parts of the country. So then is it necessary to strengthen, because now if we're talking about devolution, right, is it necessary to strengthen your county facilities then with a mental health arm?
Yes, you should, but not necessarily at the curative level where you only expand the mental health wing. No. We've had health practitioners come into this studio and talking to us about ensuring you employ a well-trained, sizable number of community health workers who are able to play that role of being the preventative arm of the healthcare system. Now, if we go that route and we understand how it should be operationalized, then it's something that should be considered, because the health worker is somebody who lives within the community they're working in. So many of the costs in terms of where to house them, transportation, is automatically limited.
The CS seems to think here that folks have been dumped at Mathare, and that
the CS is not wrong.
It's yes, and it is a lot of times to do with stigmatization, that you think your loved one may be dealing with a mental health issue but that they have been cursed, and it's an easier option to dump them at Mathare. She says it's noted that many families abandon their kin. We are working with the social welfare department in tracking and locating their families to pick them up. What does this mean? Is that people essentially have dumped them there and forgotten about them, that they have to do trace and track to find out who these people belong to so that they can be returned home. Mathare is congested. There are people there who can actually survive and live with their families. They can be at home. They don't actually need to be at Mathare. So she's saying, come and pick them up. I'm urging Kenyans to stop stigmatizing mental health patients. They are as human as everyone else. She says, we have 700 beds in the male ward, and right now we have 710 patients. 10 more patients with no appropriate shelter are forced to sleep on the floor, according to Paul Mwove, who's a senior nurse at the hospital.
The community health approach guarantees that even the families of these individuals will have an opportunity to be trained, taught, made to understand how it is they can manage their patients, or how they can manage their kith and kin.
Yeah.
And at the community level, this health worker will be somebody who is a villager like you, who knows you. and who even knows this person who is unwell, and who will probably understand the history of that person better than when that person is shipped off to. It's something that we keep talking about, but it's something that we must operationalize and take seriously.
Yep.
In 2012, there's something called community strategy. Community strategy came up with many of these things that you're hearing about. Okay? It was implemented within the HIV and AIDS care and treatment programs. Okay? That's where it was found. Because if you're talking stigma, HIV had stigma. And that's why the family approach to it had to be applied in order to ensure that family members of the person who is the group that we call affected, not infected.
Affected, yeah.
Yes, that they also were equipped with adequate knowledge to manage that whole situation. And once they were, you found that these situations were managed.
And managed well.
Yes, a lot of mental health issues are also directly related to HIV. Yes. So that understanding, it is a very cost-effective way. When you help prevent that particular outcome, you are achieving a far, far greater goal than when you then presume that if you take them to Madare, or you take them to a hospital which has a wing that deals with mental health, you'll have solved the problem. But remember, it's the same mindset. If you find yourself unable to deal with an issue, and you take it to the source where you think that matter can be resolved, as far as you're concerned, you leave that problem there. The person now is the problem, and the problem will be solved there.
Look, I think actually, as I'm thinking about this and I think now, look, we deal with the symptoms of mental health.
Yes, we do.
Without going to the core.
Yes.
And I think that, you see, the way there was that deliberate, articulate campaign on spreading information and sharing data about HIV, we have passed emergency levels for mental health issues in Kenya. And unfortunately, because of the mental health being the problem, you see now offshoots of so many other issues: drug and alcohol abuse, abnormal sexual behavior. We see other things coming as a result of that. Murder, in very many cases, domestic violence. All of these are offshoots from this one problem. And then why are we not going to the core? And I think it's about time that there needs to be deliberate, targeted information about mental health awareness, and it needs to be spread far and wide, and something ought to be done about it. Otherwise, we will not be able to manage the effects in very short time.
I quite agree with you. And what contributes to that mental health problem is something that I want to talk about now.
Go ahead.
We are looking at the article that was the Star, which stated categorically, an article by John Mushangi, half of university students hooked to drugs, said the report. They say it's a disturbing trend, and 58% of the students in the study self-reported the history of drug use, with 51% testing positive in saliva tests. Now, let's just break this thing down for you. Most abused drugs, 62% alcohol. Marijuana, 42%, that's bangi. Shisha.
Is shisha a drug?
Well, according to them, it's a drug. Yeah, that smoke thing that people smoke, the one with a gadget that looks like a steam engine. That one.
You make it sound like people are just inhaling smoke. Okay, so they are.
Well, it's a contraption that's actually very interesting.
A steam engine with a pipe at the end.
With a pipe at the end, yes, exactly. 34% cigarettes, 31% miraa, and then others. Diazepam, these are now tablets. Pharmaceutical tablet.
Yeah.
Okay. Heroin, Rohypnol.
Rohypnol is a date drug.
It is a date drug.
Yeah.
It bamboozles you completely. Leaves you not knowing where you are, what's happening to you. And in most cases, reported you go around acquiescing to almost everything that is suggested for you and to you.
50% is a large number, though, CT.
This is not just large, it is shockingly large.
Yes.
It's disturbingly large.
So what does it say? 50% of university students are hooked to drugs. Meaning hooked. What? But you know what hooked means is that you can't go a day without having your hits.
Hooked means that they are addicted. You know what this means? That if you are a parent and your child is in a Kenyan university, there's a 1 in 2 chance.
As in every 2 people you meet, one of them is hooked to drugs and alcohol at the university. Now, is this a particular university? Are we looking at universities in Kenya across board?
Across board.
Good grief.
And there are suggestions by sociologists that universities should have in-house rehabilitation centers. But before you have the rehabilitation centers, is it possible for you to actually take this matter seriously and have a program that from the time someone... Don't wait for people to enter university. You know my take on this one. Start these discussions early so that people are aware and they're informed early.
There's something being fermented here, and if it's not taken care of, it's actually going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. That you're going to have people who are growing up, becoming young adults, getting into a workforce with fried brains. And this is stemming from a problem. Look, you know what, CT, there's experimenting, which we all did, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
We all did.
Okay. But we're talking about now people who are hooked. That means it's gone beyond the experiential. It's beyond that. That is almost as though it is an aid for survival, that you need it in order to function.
Yep.
Do we know what we're saying here? That we don't have that 50% of those who will be released from a particular academic institution at some point need this crutch in order to survive. In order to function, this crutch is needed. And do we want to not link it to mental health or mental?
It is it is very directly linked to mental health. This study was actually conducted by the Kenya Medical Research Institute and 2 universities. And it was both self-reported history, meaning you're given a form, you say, me, myself, on this day,
we do
blah,
like
blah,
this,
blah,
yeah.
yes. And as a confirmatory test, a saliva test was conducted. And the results that we're talking about here were found from the research study, as well as the tests that also followed.
It's astronomical in the numbers. I mean, we want to sound sensationalist, but it is. 1 in every 2. It's crazy.
What I find even shocking, we used to talk about drugs, and our discussion began and ended around cannabis sativa, which is bangi. Now, they're saying that when they did the saliva test, many of them tested positive for heroin and prescription drugs. Now, that is not that should send alarm bells ringing loudly, which means parents, when your children come home from university, don't assume they're grown up. They are university students. Talk to them, not take them for tests. Talk to them and find out what their lives are in the university.
Is heroin not considered a hard drug?
It is a very hard drug. Yeah. It's not that it's soft, it's hard.
It's hard
in
drug.
The history of soft drugs, I don't understand also. But you need to know and find out. You need to know the friends that your children have.
My goodness.
It's important. It's very, very important.
What?
Yes.
When this thing will be taken seriously, we will know. But for now, still being, a pansy, pussyfooted attitude towards this, and it actually needs to be sorted out. Okay, the IMF might kind of, right? Kenya risks IMF wrath after Ruto's retreat on the fuel subsidy. Okay. The government on Tuesday signaled a U-turn on ending the fuel subsidies amid rising pressure to bring down the high cost of living. So that was it. Apply the subsidy, at least then you see that we're not going to increase the cost of fuel, and that means that maybe we can get in some more months of, trying to live at least a little bit comfortably. The move could see the government incur the wrath of the International Monetary Fund, which has disbursed billions of shillings in financing to the new administration, but has been against such subsidies. They say that they are not good. Let me use good as a very basic term. They're not good for governments. They're not good for countries. Subsidies use up a lot of money. That you essentially, what you want to do by the removal of subsidies is that you want to essentially force the economy to operate on its head, and things will just fall in place. You want to force that growth. But if you keep putting in money to it, it's not going to be able to grow. And you need that kickstart. And subsidies are counterintuitive to the kickstart of development. Voila. Now, Analysts have tipped the much-needed conditional bailout packages from IMF and the World Bank to help the Ruto administration avert a potential debt default and economic collapse amidst the prevailing political and economic uncertainty in the country. But the bailouts have strings attached, including strict austerity plans such as controversial public sector pay freeze, increased taxes, and the removal of subsidies on fuel and other key commodities. Now, there's been no comment yet from the IMF by the time this went to press on the government's latest decision to reinstitute the fuel subsidy. But going by what the IMF had previously said in its list of conditions for these particular bailouts, the removal of subsidies was important and it was almost demanded. So, we saw that the energy regulator, retained fuel prices at $194 for petrol, $179 for diesel, and $169 for kerosene, explaining the government had stepped in to cushion its consumers. So, yay government, maybe not so yay when IMF steps in, but we'll see.
But you know, IMF can be spoken to. See, it's people you're talking to.
It's people.
I am certain that some of these things that are being presented as do or die situations need not be do or die. At the end of the day, IMF would like to see their money repaid. And I would like to assume, if I were to take a kind view, that some of these conditionalities, as we used to call them in the 90s, are there to ensure good governance is actually in place. But a little leeway, please.
Never hurts anybody.
A little leeway, yes, and a little discussion to provide that leeway. And sometimes they're saying, or they're putting in place what they put in place to curb irregularities that they have seen. Okay? So,
there's always a discussion that can be had.
There's always a discussion that can be had, yes.
Right. Okay. Very quickly, one more story as we get to the top of the hour. And where did it go? La, 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 la.
Look.
It was just here and then it disappeared.
How can it just disappear? It was just here.
Imagine. Oh, la, 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 la. Okay, and as I'm looking, the time is just going. Here it is. TVET's enrollment hit 320,000 as Machagu eyes greener jobs. Students' enrollment in technical and vocational education and training institutions has increased from, get this, 92,000 in 2018 to 320,000 this year following government reforms. There have been government reforms. Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machagu and said TVET's reforms are meant to align training with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. It's called BETTER. To enable youth acquire skills for green jobs and mitigate climate change. Machagu said this in a speech read on his behalf by the Principal Secretary Esther Moria during the Principal's Capacity Building on Monday. Following the release of the report by the Presidential Working Party, the building workshop said this could not have come at a better time. The CS asked principals to have a critical review of the findings contained in the report and come up with practical ways of ensuring youth get skills and become creative. So what are we talking about here? People see that they need to garner skills in order to get the job done, and Machagu is very happy for that. We've seen double plus sum application towards TVETs as opposed to your conventional or traditional university degrees. Okay, we're getting towards the top of the hour. Our first conversation comes in at 7 o'clock, and we'll be having a conversation about the life and times of Mary Wamai.
Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto today is expected to officially open the 8th Devolution Conference in Uasin Gishu County. According to the schedule, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair will be the first to address the gathering. Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi, Chief Justice Martha Koome, Council of Governors Chairperson Anne Waiguru, as well as the speakers of both houses will address the conference. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is equally expected to address the conference as it kicks off today. Now, parents and students of the Finland-Canada Boys Scholarship Program in Uasin Gishu County have called off their planned demonstrations that were set to take place. According to the aggrieved parents and students, they have done so out of respect for President William Ruto, who is in the county to preside over the opening of the 8th Devolution Conference.
Uasin Gishu County ni nyumbani kwa rais mwenyewe, na kama rais anakuja hapa lazima tupeane heshima. Sasa tumesimamisha hiyo maandamano ya leo. Vile vile leo tuna wageni katika kaunti hii. Kuna Devolution Conference. Hao wageni pia tunataka wafurahie Uasin Gishu County.
The students of the education program, however, pleaded with the president to intervene to enable them get a refund.
We are not calling off because of the leadership of Uasin Gishu County. No, we are calling off because of His Excellency William Samoei Ruto. We love you, and we know we still want you to intervene on these issues so that we can be peaceful and our children will go to school.
17 heads of state and government, including the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, are among high-ranking dignitaries who have confirmed attendance at the Africa Climate Summit scheduled for September 4th to 6th in Nairobi. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua says they are expecting many more confirmations to the summit to be graced by ministers of foreign affairs and environment from across the world. 12,500 delegates have so far been accredited for the conference and the Africa Climate Week that will be happening concurrently. And university education stakeholders say that corruption and lack of morals in the country is the biggest impediment in provision of education, especially to the disadvantaged in the society, according to Joe Okoh, Deputy Principal, Uzima University in Kisumu. Actions of some authorities often deny students from poor families the opportunity to study in universities.
The biggest challenge is the implementation matrix, where we are saying money will follow the vulnerable, 100% scholarship, the extremely needy, the needy, and the less needy. There are those students whose relatives are the ones who are deciding who is vulnerable and who is less needy. Chances are that these students may get 100% funding because of the kind of corruption levels that we have in this country.
He also urged the government to pay all the debt from universities so that they can run the activities systematically.
The government-sponsored students who are actually still here on the previous funding model, the government has not been able to meet its her side of the bargain. So much fees is outstanding, and we are appealing to our good government to please look at the outstanding areas of Uzima University and try and give us what you are able to give us so that we remain open and we remain providing services to the Kenyan child.
On related matters, and Catholic bishops have raised concerns over the introduction of sex education in the curriculum. Led by Bishop Paul Kariuki, the leaders say the content already taught in school, especially in grade 7, isn't acceptable as it exposes minors to the use of contraceptives, leading to high rates of teenage pregnancies and abortion. The leaders now want the Minister of Education to recall the inclusion of reproductive and sex education in the curriculum.
Introduction of comprehensive sex education defies the narrative sold to Kenyans that the competence-based curriculum is based on values and any education given would be age appropriate.
We urge that the ministry moves with speed and initiates the removal of substrand 7.2 on reproductive health from all the learning materials and withdrawal of the mentioned books and any other book in the market that contains similar contents.
For the field, and Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke to Mali's military leader about the recent coup in Niger, a call likely to cause concern among Western governments that fear growing Russian influence in West Africa's Sahel region. Mali's interim president Assimi Goïta said the Russian leader had stressed on the importance of a peaceful resolution of the situation for a more stable Sahel. The Kremlin said in a statement that the call was initiated by Mali and that the parties specifically focused on the current situation in the Sahara-Sahel region. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock and we're looking at traffic, and really there is not much of it this Wednesday. It looks like folks are getting in and out of the city without a challenge at all. If you're coming onto Langata Road, you're not experiencing any kind of traffic. You're looking at some of it on the thicker superhighway though, and it looks like it's heavy then coming in from Survey out towards the Pangani underpass, as usually is at this time of the morning. If you're coming out of Westlands, you won't experience it. There's a little bit of a hold up on that exit or the entry onto the expressway, and that's if you're coming from the mall at Westlands. But then you're going to get onto Chiromo if you're not on the expressway, and then you're fine getting into the CBD. It is moving. We're not seeing any hold ups on Jogger Road. That's actually moving well as well. Getting onto Landis, a little bit of traffic inbound as you get towards the Kamkunji roundabout, and then really that's about the size of it. We're not in traffic hour yet, but we're looking at the rumblings, and even when we do get there, it looks like it will not be too painful, but it's all a look, wait and see kind of thing. Help us out here as well, folks, just in case you run into something that we should know about. We'll share. Talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Indeed,
this
the only way
is
to
the
start
Situation
your day at 8
Room.
minutes after
The only way to start
time
your
seems
day.
to be running, and time is not the only thing that's doing that. Folks are going to be running come the 29th of October, reminding you about the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon that takes place in its 20th edition this year. Can you imagine that? Folks have been running towards a better future for many people for 20 years. So get on down to www.nairobimarathon.com. Register with 2,000 shillings so that you can take part in this year's edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. It's a special one because it's been happening for so long, and still the impact that has had on lives still continues to be that way. Not to forget that the contributions this year go towards the Future Makers campaign. It's making change in the lives of those living with disability and in the lives of young girls towards an education and into the securing of a future. It's the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon taking place on the 29th of October. Register today and get ready for the race that takes place in Nairobi and the virtual races that will take place in different parts of the country. Into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. Our guest for this hour is already seated in the hot seat, and we're having a conversation today about the life and times of Mary Wamai. You know her name, you've heard her name before in terms of who she is and what she does, but she's here with us and she's seated in the hot seat today. Mary, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here today.
Mary is the Group Executive Director of the Equity Group Holdings PLC. Big positions, but apparently there's a story that started off really small, and we're getting to know a lot about that this morning. But to welcome you into the Situation Room this morning, CT always gives us a proverb, and the proverb is we come from Niger.
Yes, this proverb is very similar to one that we read from Togo. And Togo isn't too far from Niger. A piece of wood that has been burnt easily catches fire.
Mary, we're interested to know what you think about that proverb.
Yeah, I think I had right when I heard you ask difficult questions. A piece of wood that has been burnt
Yes, easily catches
fire. Okay. What I think is, burning weekends, or depending on what. I mean, if you burn iron, I think it gets tougher. But for wood, it weakens. So I imagine what it says is that the burning puts a blemish on your strength. It weakens you. So you become you become weaker and prone to more damage, and probably complete extermination. So that's what I think it means.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we always asked, did I get the proverb right? Of course you did. The thing about proverbs is, and especially when we ask your opinion, it is not possible for you to be wrong. Even if you try to be wrong, you can't be, because you are listening to the proverb and you are telling us how it resonates with you. And many a time you will tell us things that we hadn't thought of. If we gave you our understanding of it, it would be literally
probably different.
Yes, and it will be our understanding. And a lot of it has to do with the experiences that we've had. So the proverb maybe ignites a little thought process that reminds you of something in your life or something you've witnessed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Something you've witnessed in your life, indeed. And isn't that what we're here to talk about today? About your life and the experiences that you've been through that puts you at the position where you stand at today. So a lot of times when we meet somebody, we've met them at the end of our experience, isn't it?
Yes.
So in the 5 minutes that we've met you at the end of our experience. But there's a lot more to who an individual is and what gets you to that point. And that's what we're looking at today, essentially. You've written a book, and this is it. I'm starting at the end so that you can now take us to where it all started from.
Yeah.
And so you've written a book, The Village Girl, My Dream, Life and Legacy. I think it's interesting that you titled it The Village Girl, because you are sitting in a position, maybe the highest considerations of the corporate world, the financial world, the business world, and folks are looking at this woman who commands power. Give us a little bit of who you are and where all of this comes from.
Thank you, Du, and actually, most people have been more interested in the title than the content when they see the book the first time. And I think they ask me the same question that you have asked me. Why the village girl? And for some people, they are finding it very difficult to put together their thoughts about the lady they know. Some of them call me Lady Boss in the office. I don't know why. And the village girl title. And we had the same argument with my editor when we were deciding on the final title. So how would that be seen in the context of where I sit currently? But what I told my writing coach when we were writing the book is I just want people to see especially where I have come from. Because I was, for the first 19 years of my life, before the day I came to Nairobi University to start my LLB program, I had not left my village, literally, other than to go to school, I was born in Nyeri. My three schools, primary school, secondary school, and high school, they were all in Nyeri. So I had literally not left the village until I came to Nairobi to go to University of Nairobi. That time I was 19 years old. So when I look at my life, it means the first almost half of my life, or let's say close to half, I'm 55 now, I was in the village, literally. So my experiences in that phase of life were in the village, just a young, ordinary girl growing up. For those who have grown up in the village, they know how that life is. And you remember it's several years back. It's quite a while. Yeah. The village has since evolved quite a bit now, but it is what it was in the I was born in the late 60s and through the 70s. And of course, part of the 80s, half of the 80s, I was there. So it's about just talking about those experiences. I have said in the book that my mom was a single peasant farmer. So, of course, there were no frills attached to my growing up. I mean, even raising school fees was a big challenge, but she struggled. People came to help me, and fortunately, I was able to go through school successfully, but I also did my part. And I worked very hard and got good grades, and I qualified to be a lawyer. So that is the context. But I think the reason why I first of all wrote the book was I wanted people to see that it does not matter where you are coming from. Your past is in the past. It should not define the road you are taking into the future, the present and the future. And that has been my experience, because I was just a village girl, very simple. I mean, no connections, no networks, nobody knew me. You know, when I was growing up, for instance, I'm getting mesmerized here because radio has also evolved. That time we had the VOK, Voice of Kenya. It was the only channel available. And we had an old transistor radio at home in my mom's house. So that was the only media we had. Of course, there was no social media, no Facebook, no YouTube, no nothing. Yeah. That's the context. But here we are now. I mean, we have the state of the art. I work in the biggest bank in the region, Equity Bank. Yesterday, we just announced the half-year results of the bank. We have done well, clocked about 1.6 trillion in balance sheet for the group, which is no mean achievement. So I think it's just been a journey of, reflection also, because that's why I've gone through the past, but also an encouragement to whoever will read the book that you can get wherever you want to get. But of course, there's work to be done. You don't do that. You're just sitting back and complaining, oh, I was born by a poor mother, or I was... No. There's work for you to do also to get yourself past those challenges, overcome your situation at that point in time. But also what I wanted to pass across is that along the way, you also meet people who are willing to give you a push and help you to get out of the situation that you have grown up in or you find yourself in. Sometimes the challenging circumstances actually come when you're already grown up, or when you're working, you have a business that you're running, but then you encounter obstacles. So it is an encouragement for everybody. You do not have to have gone or grown up in the village to benefit from this message, because it can happen anytime. Challenging circumstances come at the workplace, in the business, wherever.
But Mary,
so that's the message.
You don't just work for the biggest bank in the region. You're the group executive director. Right? And if we're going to be able to take these two images that we've created in our minds already just by that, there's a girl who grew up for the first 19 years of life in the village, a very simple life that you speak of, and then here you are sitting at the top, maybe one of the highest positions the corporate world has to offer in this sector. How do you marry those two? In the book, you talk about the experiences that your mother shared, simple storytelling lessons that you would get while you watched her cook in the evening. How did those experiences, those simple lessons that she gave you, like you said, not connected to anybody, worked hard, went to school, came out of school, graduated, started applying for work, how did those experiences growing up then affect future function for you?
Well, I would say, first of all, let me say that my mom, though she was not literate in the real sense of the word, I mean, literacy, sometimes we define you have gone to school up to secondary school, university, or whatever, masters. she did not have that kind of education. She dropped out in primary school because, remember, she grew up during the colonial time period. And like most families that time, she had 2 brothers. Her own parents had limited means, so the brothers were actually preferred for further education. One became a teacher. The other one went on to become the mayor of Nyeri at some point. So he was fairly educated, actually up to a broad level. So she did not have that education.
Yeah.
She didn't go much to school. She actually went up to primary school. But she could read and write. She could speak Kiswahili, although we used to speak Kikuyu most of the time. But she was my role model. My biggest role model was my mom, even before I met the others who later became my role models. And the reason I say this is because the first thing she did was to bring me up together with my siblings in faith. And here faith, I mean we were Christianity. Her dad was among the first to get converted into the Catholic faith because the missionaries actually came to my village, the Italian, in the first, I think around 1908 or thereabouts. So my grandparents were the first converts into the Catholic faith. So they brought up their children under the Christian faith. So my mom also brought us up under the same. Prayer for us was a daily thing. You had no choice here. You had to say the daily prayers. Pray before food, pray before sleep, before dinner. Before dinner, that was the catch. You don't eat until you say your evening prayers. So in a way that inculcated in me the Christian values. Now, if you want to break down the Christian values, this is where you get things like integrity, because when you look at the 10 commandments, I think they cover the whole length and breadth of our lives. There's something about prayer, there's something about do not steal, that's integrity. Do not defraud. I work in a bank, so when I think about do not steal, that's the command to me. So those are the things that I learned when I was fairly young. A very high sense of accountability and transparency. You will see in the book where I've said that I lost a 50 cents change when I was sent to the shop by my mom. And then it fell off when I was running back home. Do you know she told me, go back and come back with the change. She could not hear anything. Where is the 50 cents? Because in her mind she's thinking, this little girl is becoming clever. She has spent the 50 cents. So she told me, come back. I want to see the 50 cents. I went up and down to the shop. Of course, it's lost. And you know, it's on the road. So how do you find that 50 cents was very small, tiny coin. I don't know whether you remember it.
I remember it very well. That's why I'm smiling.
So finally, one of the elders in the village met me the second time going up and down the road, because now I'm thinking, where do I get these 50 cents from? I'll be killed by my mom. So he told me, young girl, you've been going up and down. What are you looking for? What is the problem? So I told him, I lost the mom's change. I'm trying to look for it and I can't find it. Now, I'll be killed. So the old man actually pitied me and gave me a 50 cents, which I took to my mom. And she was happy. She said, yeah. You have to take care of what is entrusted with you. So that was a lesson on its own. And there were many others, of course, in that respect. That accountability. So that is why I find that even now, my first point when I'm doing my work is a high sense of accountability and transparency. I am in charge of governance in the group. And the message that I spread every single day is that your success as an individual is built or destroyed by your accountability and transparency or lack of it. That is what I do every day. Just to make sure that as a bank also, we are living to the highest standards of accountability and transparency as a well-governed institution. Reports are correct, they are veiled on time, regulations are complied with. That is what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I must say that training that I got very early on has helped me a lot. The other lesson is integrity as an individual, both as a professional and also as as a social being, because you can look at integrity from those two perspectives. So that's another lesson. And she kept on telling me, Mary, that is what is going to define you. You must stick to your values all the time, irrespective of the circumstances. Because what happens is that sometimes when we come into these very modern settings and societies and we are mixing all over, we sometimes forget our very basic values that we grew up with sometimes, which are also very critical in any situation. So that is one caveat that she gave me. The other one was the one of hard work. Early on when I was even before I went to school, by the way, I used to self-teach myself. And my siblings, my older siblings, used to teach me also. Yes. My older sister, Sophia, and Matthew, they used to teach me even before I went to nursery school to count AB 1, 2, 3. Incidentally, that time we used to do the alphabet in Kikuyu. So they would teach me the Kikuyu version of the alphabet. So by the time I was ready for nursery school, at least I knew how to count, I knew how to do the alphabet and all that. Now, when it came to going to school, I was too young because I was 5 years. So I was supposed to go to nursery school. But I told my mom, no, I want to go to the big school. Now the big school being the primary school. Yes. Because I liked learning. I had enjoyed the lessons. So my mom told me, okay, let's go to the head teacher. And then we will ask him to register you. So I went to the head teacher. And that time, I don't know whether city you remember, they used to do an ear test.
I read that part in the book. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
So that is what used to determine whether you're ready for school.
So what? If you can touch your ear?
If you can touch your ear like this from the other hand. The opposite.
I might still not be ready for school.
You need to do the test when you are alone. So the head teacher said, touch your ear, and I did. Of course, I couldn't. I was very small, a very small girl. So I couldn't pass that test. And he told me, no, you have to go to nursery school. And I told him, oh, teacher, he was called Mr. Wambogo. Oh, Mr. Wambogo, I'm ready. I know how to do the alphabet. I know. Do you want me to count for you? 1, 2, 3. He says, okay, count. 1, 2. So I counted up to 20. And then I did the alphabet. A, E, O in Kikuyu. So you guys think it's a joke. But on the strength of that, he allowed me
to go to primary
school. Go to Standard 1 straight without going to nursery school. So I don't know whether there we breached the law or the regulation.
In those days you could.
Yeah?
If you are found to be bright enough, you could easily skip a class.
Yeah, yes. So they allowed me. I'm not sure it was in the regulation, but now that you say it was. The
regulations did not prohibit you.
Okay.
Yes.
So there was it wasn't a no. So
no, it wasn't a no.
So I went to Standard 1. Now, what was amazing is that I did very well, and the teachers used to ask me to tutor the weaker students, even in Standard 1 and 2. So we would go to the compound and I would show them how to do 1 + 1, all that. So that's how I learned. So my mom used to remind me at every opportunity, Mary, or she used to call me Wagari. That's my born name, my family name. I have nothing to give you. I don't have land. By the way, because we were living in her father's land, There were the usual disagreements and squabbles within the family. So she's telling me, I have nothing to give you, because even this land, there's an issue. But you have to work very hard. It's the only way that you're going to get yourself out of this village. So work very hard. And she meant it, because even when I got chores to work on the farm, feed the cows, feed the goats, do this, do that, she always made sure that she allocated me time for studies. Especially when I got now closer to the exam time. She always did that. So that also helped me to see why it was important, the importance of really working hard at school. So with the aim of getting myself out of the village.
Yeah.
Now, after this book, some people have asked me, does that mean that you hate the village? Because you really wanted to get out of it. So does that mean that, you don't like the village at all? And I tell them, no, on the contrary, I love the village. My best moments when I take a break from Equity today, I just go to my village house because my mom is no longer there. She passed on 2017. So, but the house is there. So that is my best place for reflection, for meditation, just having peace with myself.
Yeah.
I love the village, and I love even the interactions with the people who are still there.
Sure.
It's a good thing because there are very rich experiences there. It's only that I do not live there from January 1 to December 31st. But I love the village because I'm also proud of my roots, where I came from. And I'm happy to talk about it because I think it was a very enriching experience.
Let's take a break on that note. We're going to come back and continue with this. The legacy, essentially, that then you're able to talk about after having left the village, come into the city, but then still draw experiences from being in the village. Mary Wamai is our guest this morning, talking about dreams, life, and legacy. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 27 minutes to 8 o'clock. Come back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Nairobi Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu. Kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys and walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Chilled Spice.
Clear conditions at 14 in Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We'll see lows of 13 in a clear Nakuru at 13, going to highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 24 in a mostly clear Nyeri at 14. We'll go to highs of 25 in Eldoret, where it's clear at 11. It's 24 and partly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 29 as well in a clear Malindi at 24. It's clear at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 31. And it's 16 degrees in Kakamega, going to highs of 30 and lows of 16. Kampala is clear at 19, highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 29 as well. And clear Dar es Salaam at 24. 6 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 21. And 29 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 24. It's 22 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 32, lows of 22.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
still continues in the city, and actually not too bad. The days have not been too clogged in terms of traffic. We're in traffic hour proper according to the clock. We'll see some of it on Langata Road and some of it also coming off the Thika Superhighway. It's not too busy though. On Jogo Road, then going out towards Landis, it's busy. It's bumper to bumper, chock-a-blocked as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. And where we'll see the most of it on the Thika Superhighway is coming past Survey out towards Pangani and then onto Moranga Road. If you are in that area, you want to use Wangari Maathai, then getting into the city because it's clear, no issues there as you're trying to go onwards towards Westlands or then into the CBT. Apart from that, you should be able to get where you're going without any hiccups whatsoever. Let us know, just in case you do. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Announcement calling on all children who have closed school for the August holidays. It's been a week into it, hasn't it? DSTV is asking you to never stop thinking and imagining. You're cordially invited to a wonder-filled world packed with the greatest kids content from across Africa and across the world. Don't waste your kids' August holiday. Get connected to DSTV today and watch your kids expand their horizons with content that will inspire them to be more adventurous and fun. It's all on DSTV. Dial *423# or download the My DSTV app to get a DSTV decoder with 1 month of family for just 2,999 shillings. CT later will tell you about how he watches Alvin and the Chipmunks, but okay, that's a different story for now. Get on to DSTV today for that. All right, if you're just joining us, we are having a conversation with Mary Wamai, who's the Group Executive Director of Equity Bank Holdings PLC, Equity Group Holdings PLC. And we've been having a conversation looking at your life and times and coming to the point where you are and some of those vital lessons that you've learned for yourself, which obviously can be a lesson for others. Steve.
You know, in life, certain things happen to us. One, they're not expected. Sometimes they're horribly terrible and they twist and turn our lives in directions we wish they didn't. Others are not so. Others are far more pleasant. Now, what are some of these things that happen to you as you are getting on with your career? The things that you didn't anticipate, you didn't expect, but which influence your life greatly. People who came from nowhere, you didn't know them, you didn't expect, but somehow they played a very important role in your life. It's called the role of chance.
Yeah. Thank you, Siti. Let me talk about one, I would say, encounter that really changed the trajectory of my life. I qualified as a lawyer in 1991. From the University of Nairobi and then the School of Law. I was admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and started as usual, like any lawyer would do. I was employed as a legal assistant in a legal firm by my boss, Mr. Kigano, who later became the Kangema MP sometime. And then I went on my own. I started my own legal firm. I think that was around 1996. Now, I loved practice. That experience of taking my briefcase in the morning with the files for the clients and going to court to argue their cases and all that. And of course, I did also some conveyancing. I loved it. I loved it so much, and it just made my day. But at some point, I felt like I needed to do more impactful engagements. And at that time now, around 2000, I'm thinking, okay, so should I go to the human rights field or should I go to, the NGOs or the UN, or what should I do to feel like I'm having more impact in society? than I'm having right now as a lawyer. But that's also I was also doing some briefs for FIDA, FIDA to support women in distress from the legal side, and kituo cha sheria and all that. I used to support all that, but I just felt it was not enough. And I was also getting involved in activities of human rights organizations at the board level and other engagements. So I went back to do a diploma postgraduate diploma in gender and development, because I felt that will strengthen my knowledge in that area, supporting women. But just after I finished that postgraduate diploma, now I'm in my legal office, and I get a guest. I didn't know him, although I had dealt with Equity Building Society from a client's perspective. I was doing their conveyancing matters and all that. So I'm told there's someone to see you. His name is James. So I'm like, okay. So I mean, I never used to give appointments. People just used to walk in. Like in a starter in a legal practice. So James walks in. Oh, I'm James Mwangi. I'm the finance director. At that time, he was not the CEO. He was the finance director of Equity. And then he tells me, so I just welcome him like any other client. So he tells me, Mary, there's something I want you to do for us. Us meaning Equity. It was a building society. I said, yeah, my office is open for business. So he tells me we have a big investor coming with, it was $1.6 million US, which was big at that time, 2002. And we want you to do this transaction. So I said, of course, I will do it. So I took the brief. And then he went. He left me the file with the contract that I needed to review. So when he left, I looked at the contract. And then I realized, oh my goodness, this is a brief worth 1.6 million. The biggest brief I've done so far in my firm is just about maybe $50,000. 5 million to date. Now you're talking about that time the shilling was much stronger. So the transaction was actually about 120 million Kenya shillings. So when you look at what I've done so far and what I'm supposed to do for Equity Building Society, I felt like, oh my goodness, am I going to do this? But then I figured, well, as a lawyer, the first thing you have to show is courage. Yeah. You have to show courage under all circumstances. So the first thing I did was I ran to the High Court Library. The librarian was a lady called Cecilia. And I told Cecilia, please, can you give me all the books on commercial law? Anything you have in this. That time, everything was just hard copies. There were volumes and volumes of books. So she brought them to my table and put all of them there. So I looked. I am seeing terms in this agreement that I've never had, but I checked all of them. At the end of it, I was able to review and give an opinion, and we successfully closed that transaction. I earned my fees, of course, also.
Which was the largest fee you had ever earned?
Which is the largest fee I had ever earned in my life. Why lie? So that was the sweetest part of it. But then, what that did also is that because I worked very closely with Equity Building Society during that transaction, and we closed, and then there was a provision in the contract that after we finish that transaction, we are going to convert Equity Building Society into a fully fledged bank. That was one of the understanding with the new investor. So after the closure, they asked me, now we need to do part B. Phase 2 now is converting the bank from a building society to a real commercial bank, because it was not a fully fledged commercial bank at that time. So they asked me, can you do it for us? We like the way you work, so please can you support us? Because that time we did not even have a legal department in Equity. The building society was still very small. It was a balance sheet of like 3 billion shillings. Now it's 1.6 trillion. So you can imagine the size. So I told them, of course, I will do it. I love working with Equity. So we started now on phase 2. But then what phase 2 did, it was so involving because there was the legal part of it. You have to go to the central bank, get the licenses, get the new bank license, then transfer assets and liabilities. It became a full-time job for me. And I realized I could not handle my farm appropriately. I'm not available for other customers. So I told James now, I have a problem. I have no time for my business, for my practice. What do I do? James told me, the answer is very simple. Just move on permanently. We are getting you into the payroll. Yeah. I asked for it, so that's what I got. So I got into the payroll. Now this is 2004. That is how I joined Equity. So that was one of, I would say actually probably the most life-changing experience for me. That totally changed my career path. Because now I suddenly find myself now working in a bank after the successful conversion in 2004.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different ballgame. Now, from thinking as a lawyer, the way I used to before, now I have to start thinking as a banker.
As a banker.
And I needed to figure out, like, what do I then need to do to become the real banker or the lawyer who is also a banker, because, you know, banking is about people.
Yeah.
It's about growth. It's about performance. There's a little bit of legal from a risk management perspective, but legal is not the business. Legal is a support service. So I needed to become a banker. And that is what now I started from 2004, my journey now to becoming a real banker in the context of Equity.
I want to take you back to one of the experiences that you mentioned in the book. This is after your encounter with James Mwangi, and you talk about then, and I'm just going to read that, where you say, my first office was at Luthuli House on Luthuli Avenue in downtown Nairobi, a part of the city marked by a cacophony of hooting matatus, hawkers and loud music from the myriad of electronic shops that line up the street. This area was also notorious for petty thieves and hordes of street urchins looking for a few coins from passers-by. I experienced the first-hand of harsh reality of life in this part of town after having my wristwatch snatched near the busy Kencom bus stop by some of the street boys who panhandle in the area. You went on then to talk about co-sharing your property with somebody else, and you then got into a predicament, and the gentleman asked you, you said you're a lawyer, right? He said incredulously, his eyes narrowing with his exasperation. Yes, I answered in a shaky voice. Then I have never met one as stupid as you, he shot back. You of all people should know that subletting office space is illegal. Did you know what you were doing then? And how did that then shape what you went on to do later, which clearly you figured out?
You know, in hindsight, we are always wiser. Now I know it was very stupid. But then, by then, I thought it was, I mean, it's just what I did. It was the most stupid thing that I could have done. Because once I made my decision to start my legal firm, the next thing is you look for an office, right? We used to call it a kiosk those days. Yeah. So where do I set up my kiosk, legal kiosk? And this guy was a good friend of a friend of mine. So he told me, there's actually a friend of mine who has some space in Luthuli House. So that's how I came. And the rent is only this much. I can't quite recall how much it was. So on the basis of that, I just bought my desk, that time there were no computers, my typewriter, and got a girl to be my secretary and started the office. I had actually not thought about who is the landlord, because my landlord is my friend's friend. He used to do a printing business, so he gave me a spare office, which I used for my legal firm. Now, when the auctioneers came that fine morning, is when I actually realized, okay, I pay this guy rent every month, but he does not pay the landlord. Although it also turned out that the rent I was paying him was more than he was paying the landlord, or more than he was supposed to pay the real landlord. That's why Congo thought I was crazy, stupid, whatever. He called me actually stupid. But he was also a good man because he told me. So I just apologized and told him, I don't know what happened. So can you please don't take my table and my things away. So he told me, okay, I like you and you look genuine. So what I'll do is I will allow you time, take an office directly from me. Fortunately, he had other offices on the 3rd floor. And then I'll give you 1 month to furnish the house. Then you move. That's what happened. So I became his direct tenant. And he also became my customer in the farm. We became very good friends. So I think, in a way, I would look at that from a point of view of sometimes as human beings, we make mistakes. And we should not beat ourselves sometimes too much. Of course, sometimes we make very grave mistakes and the consequences are grave. In that case, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I was called stupid, but that was just about it. But I was able to get my way out of it. But sometimes we make very serious mistakes. And we have to live with the consequences. So first of all, we have to sort out the consequences of our mistakes.
Right.
But more importantly is make sure we have learned from the mistakes of the past, what we have done, either not optimally or the wrong thing we have done, so that we do not keep on repeating the same mistake. So if you make a mistake once, that's okay. You can be forgiven. You can get away with it. But if you continue repeating the same mistake, then maybe that way people will not forgive you. So that was my greatest learning from that very. Now it sounds funny, but that time it wasn't very funny.
Mary, what is it about you that you would say makes you stand out?
The one thing I would say is, and what I always try to preserve for myself, is my integrity as a person, my accountability. Because I have always, my motto is that I can be forgiven for anything else, any other mistake. But a lack of integrity is something I cannot get away with. And this is actually one of the messages, one of the lessons that I've put in the book for those who are going to read the book. Preserve everything. What that means is that sometimes you actually do get into trouble for standing by your principles and your integrity. But at the end of the day, the price is huge. The reward is high. And what we have also seen, I've also seen in my life, is that if you breach the rule of integrity, eventually things catch up with you. So you destroy your business, you destroy your career, even if you had done so much, put in so much effort in terms of building it. But one mistake, this a simple or small or big scandal, and we have seen it happen. I mean, in the media, you report these things every day. Yep. Someone was up there, they have built a serious career or a big business, and then just one mistake, integrity, it all collapses. Nobody wants to talk to you. No one wants to buy from you because of that.
Did you ever ask Mr. Mwangi why it is he decided to give you that break?
To come to the bank?
Sorry, Dr. Mwangi. Did you ever ask him? Not to come to the bank. No. To come to the bank came later. When he came to your office, when you didn't expect him and offered you and said, we've got this thing.
Just get on the payroll.
Did you ever ask him why it is? Because I am certain that
he had many lawyers on the panel.
It is not possible to have a business of that nature and not have other lawyers.
Yeah, that's true. They had a lot of lawyers, and I've asked him several times. He laughs it off when I asked him. And finally I asked him, okay, could it be that you are looking for a lawyer that Equity could afford? At that time. So he smiles.
Yes.
He has not said yes or no to
but,
that question. Very direct. But you know why he came to me? He asked his colleagues. I used to deal with his colleagues in the bank, the head of credit then, and he's called Ambrose, and the other one was in operations, Gerard. And he told them, I need a lawyer. Who can we recommend? And because I had worked with this lawyer, these bank officers for a while, they liked my work, my timeliness in submitting documents, error-free documents, follow-up of issues, good service to the customers that they were sending to me. They actually recommended me to him. So when he came to my office, he had been referred by them because they also knew where my office was and what I was doing, which to me is a strong point about others advocating for you. Others advocating for you based on either the service you have given them in the past or how you have carried yourself. Or that's the way I read it myself. But there could be also that issue of we want, and you should know who was on the other side. It was the top legal firm in the country, which was acting for the investor. So, but I think, that time, to be honest, Equity was struggling. They were not doing very well. It was not like today. So
They were not the big bank.
They were not the big bank.
But everybody starts somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
You see, when people think of legacy, I am looking at your dream, your life, and your legacy. You see, people think and talk about legacy as though it's something that comes at the end of your life.
No.
And yet, legacy is not only aspirational, it's something that is built over time and it's acquired incrementally. Because what you've just described about those fellows you worked with, you had a legacy then.
Yes.
Whether it's timeliness, tidiness, reliability, you already had it now. That is what was built over time. That short time you worked with them, and it's what led to bigger things. Now, if I were to ask, if you've maintained those very values and qualities, is it then surprising that you are where you are?
No, I would say that, and the lesson I'm repeating to everybody, to my mentees and everybody, is that if you really want success, you have to work for it. There's no shortcut to success. You know, these days especially, some people are thinking, if I know a big person somewhere, maybe they'll connect me. And no, it's not a laughing matter, because we have people who come to work and then you realize this person, they will not serve the customer properly, they will be rude to the customers, they will not submit their reports on time, so the work is what we call shoddy. They don't go very far. So it doesn't matter who you know or where you came from. You have to put in the hours and you have to deliver according to expectations. And this one is even if you're employed or if you're running your own business, your own enterprise, or even like you guys here, your listeners have expectations. So you have to deliver it to them. Otherwise, no one will want to watch, no one will want to listen.
Exactly.
So that's my number one rule. Yeah, and that is what I'm telling people. First of all, focus. Strong sense of purpose, because if you believe in what you do passionately, you will do it well.
Indeed.
And you will stop at nothing to deliver it. That has been my principle throughout.
The Village Girl, my dream, life and legacy. Mary Wamai, thank you so much for being our guest on the Situation Room this morning. Great lessons, great experiences put into one book. Asante sana.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me doing City.
Asante.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Good morning.
Thank you.
8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Newsroom, Dennis Aseto. Azimio leader Raila Odinga now says that the Kenya Kwanza side sent a weak team to face a stronger delegation of the opposition side in the renewed bipartisan talks. Speaking in Makueni, Raila likened the Kenya Kwanza delegation to a third division squad that's up against a first choice team of the Azimio.
Tumesema gharama ya maisha irudi chini. Pili, pale matokeo iliingia ifunguliwe. Alipowachana na vyama vyetu. Maana hiyo timu yetu hiyo inaitwa Azimio First 11. Azimio First 11 sio? Wao walileta sisi third division team. Sasa Kalonzo yuko pale, kuna mwingine sio inaitwa Ichungwa si Chetha hiyo. Wataongea, si wataongea? Ukikubaliana sawa sawa. Usipokubaliana, sisi tuko na wao.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka is leading the Azimio side, says that his team is ready for the talks and that they'll ensure that all the issues they have will be put on the table.
And I want to assure my team for the confidence you have shown us that we can participate in these bipartisan talks. Tunaingia hapo bila kujali. Yani we mean business. And I've told even our friends on the other side, we are not here to waste time. We are not to play games. If you want to discuss the problems, wizi wa kura, agenda yote iko hapo. Hiyo mambo yote tuyaweke kwa meza bila mtu kuwa na nia mbaya. Lakini nataka niwahakikishie Mungu akituwezesha, this country will be a great nation.
Odinga added that the police must be held responsible for their actions as demonstrations, picketing and protest are rights enshrined in the constitution.
Kwa jumla wamepiga watu ambao wameua 72 ambao wameua na risasi ya polisi. Alafu mwingine anaitwa Bwana Kome. Anasema sisi tumeenda kutafuta maiti ya kuonyesha kwa picha. Yale ambayo jamaa wamefanya ni unyama. Wanaua watu ambao hawana hatia. Manake maandamano iko kwa sheria yetu.
This is National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah has given a notice of motion seeking to legally establish the National Dialogue Committee. The blogger and Kenya Kwanza critic Pauline Njoroge claims that over 300,000 was withdrawn from her account while the DCI withheld her bank cards. Njoroge took to social media to claim the money was withdrawn via an online transaction, a point her lawyer raised in court as the hearing in her case continued. She then went ahead to link the theft to a pseudo account on Facebook, which she says was aware of the fraud. Her claims come just weeks after she and a friend were arrested while visiting Watamu in Kilifi County. Police initially claimed that Njoroge and the other two were found in possession of narcotics, but no charges were filed against them when they appeared in court 2 days later. Her arrest was linked to the Azimio la Umoja protest against President William Ruto's administration across the country. Njoroge has been a strong critic of the Kenya Kwanza government and a close ally of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Her arrest sparked angry reactions from her supporters, and the police were on the spot for allegedly planting allegations against them. Now, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner states that the number of Kenyans registered with WorldCoin is yet to be determined. Appearing before the Parliamentary Committee on Communications, Information and Innovation, Data Commissioner Immaculate Kasait said that they'd, however, launched investigations to determine the actual status of WorldCoin's operations and information gathered.
The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is yet to establish the numbers of the Kenyans who have signed up with WorldCoin and pursuant to its powers under Section 191 and 59 of the Data Protection Act has commenced multi-agency investigation to ascertain the true position of the processing activity of WorldCoin.
The government has prioritized the digital superhighway as a key driver for the country's transformation, creation of jobs and growth. President William Ruto said the government is inviting partners and investors to further expand high-speed internet access nationwide. This will ensure remote parts of the country reaps the economic benefit of the digital space in a cost-effective way. The president spoke when he held discussions with at Karibu_Connect, a global partner of Elon Musk's SpaceX at the Eldoret State Law County. President was Jimmy Growell, CEO, Elcom International, and Calvin Handa, Chairman, Africa Capital. The government has opened the ICT space for more investment by removing the 30% local shareholding restriction, which will see more technology companies invest in Kenya. I'm Dennis Asada. Good morning.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aya, City. Do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
What are they saying? How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of
The situation.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock now, and into traffic hour proper. We're looking at a little bit of it building up in different parts of the Thika Superhighway. It was heavy as you're coming then towards the Pangani underpass. We saw that already. For the first time in a couple of days, we're seeing traffic. It's heavy on Kiambu Road. And coming out of Westlands, there's some then on James Gishiro, touching here and there on Wayaki Way. And in the CBD, moving around here and there, we're seeing some of it also coming then off of North Airport Road from Cabanas, heading out towards the Eastern Bypass, and then on to Outer Ring at the junction, also a little bit here and there. Uhuru Highway is busy. We're looking at traffic on Jogger Road going out towards Landis, which is jam-packed right about now. Langata Road not doing too badly. Traffic hour looks like we'll get through it without too much in terms of pain. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Talk to us there as we try to keep things moving this Wednesday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
it's 8
not
minutes
down.
After 8 o'clock. Welcome
this is
to
the
third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday morning. Many things are going on in the country. The Devolution conference continues in Uasin Gishu County, and as we get into a political conversation this hour, the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon taking place this October. Now, it's Kenya's largest single-day athletics event, and it's back. This year, it's bigger than ever before. It's the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Join us at Uhuru Gardens on the 29th of October as we celebrate 20 years running. Register today for 2,000 shillings only at www.nairobimarathon.com. All proceeds go towards the Future Makers program, which helps young people, especially girls and people living with disability, to learn, earn and grow. The Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon is coming up, and guess what? It's 20 years old. Keep it here at Spice, and we count down towards the marathon taking place on the 29th of October. All right, getting into this conversation this morning, our guest is seated, and we're having a conversation about what's been happening over the last 1 year. The Vihiga County Senator, Godfrey Osotsi, is our guest this morning. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good morning, Kenyans who are listening or watching me. And two of you, thank you very much for this opportunity to come and talk to you and the rest of the Kenyans.
We're very happy to have you here. This is the hot seat of the Situation Room. And I don't think we need to warm things up for you. It looks like you'll be able to do that just for yourself as we get into this conversation. But before we get things cooking, CT will welcome you properly with today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Niger. For the longest time, I knew it was called Niger. And then Du came along and told me, well, Niger is the river. Niger River. Niger River is found in Nigeria. And this country is not Niger, it is Niger. So, the country of Niger. Okay? A piece of wood that has been burnt easily catches fire.
A piece of wood that has been burnt easily catches fire, Senator. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's practical even here in Kenya that, a piece of wood that has burnt, it means it's dry enough to easily catch fire. It applies in many situations in our life, especially here in Kenya. And I think it's going to be part of what is going to come out of this show today. Yeah.
Okay.
You know why this particular proverb struck me? You know, when one is preparing these proverbs, one comes across an entire plethora. There are very many proverbs to choose from. But in fact, the reason why we're actually looking at proverbs in Niger is I was reading, and in my reading I was looking at just the amount of turmoil in the last 2 years we've had in West Africa. One country, one coup after another, disturbances. And I thought, now surely there must be a way to try and understand what's actually happening. Okay, there's what we read, but what is it about the people in these countries? And then Niger had their coups. So I thought, okay, why don't we focus on this country and figure out? And this particular proverb, I thought, for there to be a coup and for the coup leaders to claim that what they're doing is something that resonates with the people, that particular piece of wood had caught fire somewhere. So it was now very, very easy to ignite.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I now understand your context.
Yes.
Niger was part of the countries within the French
the Francophone countries
in Western Africa. They have been going through a lot of challenges.
Yes, they have.
You go to countries like Burkina Faso, countries like Gabon and the others. There is resistance towards French interference in their politics, and I think it's reaching a point where people are saying no to external interference of the French. Even as we speak now, their central bank is controlled from
Paris.
From Paris.
Yes.
And those countries are largely extremely poor in infrastructure and in many ways. In fact, the whole of West Africa, and I'm happy she comes from there. When you go to maybe Ghana and Nigeria, you see difference compared to the rest of West Africa. Ivory Coast a bit, Senegal a bit, but the others are largely poor. And that speaks to the French rule over those countries. So what is happening in Niger is largely resistance towards French rule, and we are told there is also some aspect of Russian influence in it.
Those are interesting words: resistance, influence, many things coming into conversations that we can actually bring here in Kenya. So August 9th happened, 2022.
Yes.
Which forms the basis for our conversation today. And August 10th, August 11th, then were met with resistance. The days we woke up to not so peaceful were it situations where the numbers that were coming in were not pleasurable to many. We saw many things happening. We saw press conferences called. We saw media press has been given telling us about, the possibility of a heist having taken place at Bomas, and that President William Ruto, now having been declared president, was an illegality. It was not done right. There was conflict from the get-go. So here we are, a year and a week later, and there still seems to be a standoff between Kenya Kwanza, who is in government, and Azimio, who is in the opposition. From your point of view, Senator, of course, playing right in the center of a lot of these things today, what's your overview? What would be your overview of what exactly is going on today, now that we've gone into bipartisan talks even?
Well, one, we have to appreciate the fact that Azimio, we are still contesting the results of the election.
Oh, we are? Okay.
We are. And that's why it's one of the issues that we have presented as an issue for discussion. Remember the opening of the server, which we are demanding, that it should be one of the issues, because you want to know the truth. We may not do much with the truth at this point, because William Ruto is on the seat. But it's important for Kenya to know the truth, so that such a scenario does not arise in future. We also need to know the truth, so that we can look at the possible reforms, the electoral reforms that we can implement as a country, so that we don't go back to that scenario again. So there is a larger issue of legitimacy, which is hanging on William Ruto. And Azimio has gone to the extent of trying to prove that indeed we have an issue with the election results. And that's why we decided to go, let's have people giving us their signatures, voters. And as we are talking now, we have over 8.5 million voters who have signed that document, questioning the legitimacy of the election and invoking Article 1 of the Constitution that vests sovereign powers in the people of Kenya.
Okay.
So the first issue is that we are still contesting the election and we want to discuss it. Number two, there are issues which have emerged. The issue of performance of Kenya Kwanza 1 year later is an issue. When we talk about cost of living is a serious issue in this country. And Azimio has consistently been pushing for a discussion on the issue of cost of living. On the other hand, Kenya Kwanza has been saying, no, we cannot discuss cost of living. Cost of living is affected by international factors, and cost of living is a policy issue, so we can't discuss it. But we are insisting we have to discuss it because we are leaders, just like them. We are elected by the people. So I think it's important to address concerns of the people, because Article 95 of the Constitution of Kenya clearly states that one of the roles of Parliament is to address concerns of the people. And the concerns of the people at the moment is a high cost of living. And to demonstrate that actually Azimio is right, you have seen Kenya Kwanza has tried to do things around subsidies. They said they will never do subsidies. Now, recently, the review of petroleum prices, they have now introduced subsidies.
Would that not speak to the, they did not refuse. The Kenya Kwanza government has not refused. President William Ruto has accepted that, yes, the cost of living is something that is an issue, that they want to see what they can do about it. Wouldn't that just fuel this sentiment that he put out there in the beginning, that they realize that things are actually hard, but they're trying all that they can do to make sure that Kenyans can survive and then thrive through it? Wouldn't it be
I think we think that he can do more, and he can do better. And if you look at some of the measures they have come up with to address the issue of cost of living, those measures are largely failed. And those measures are also avenues to enhance corruption among the politically correct people. I want to give you an example. They told us that the dollar is very high, and that means it also affects the economy, it also affects cost of living. So what was their solution? Their solution was to go and engage into government-to-government deal with Saudi Arabia to bring in petroleum products. And they told us within a short time, the cost of dollars will go down. I remember even Mr. Gachagua saying that if you are keeping dollars in your house, know that they are going to be useless very soon. You better take them to the bank. But what has happened? They brought in tons and tons, liters of petroleum products. No one knows the details of the deal. The deal was not sanctioned by Parliament. We do not know the players, the suppliers, and the details are very scanty. And now, several months after, the dollar has instead gone up. That has failed. Number two, I remember the CS for Agriculture making this very strange statement that Kenya has acquired leased land in Zambia to plant maize because it is cheaper to plant maize in Zambia and then ship it back to Kenya. No one is talking about that. The details are very scanty. There was no parliamentary approval. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs engagement is not very clear. So that has failed again. Then the president himself went to Tana River and said, we are going to ensure Galana Kulalu
will work.
And with Galana Kulalu working, we are sure of producing enough maize for local consumption. What is the status? 4 months down the line, nothing is happening. It has failed.
Has it failed? Can you apply a judgment of failure upon something that ordinarily would need time to be able to work? You don't put a seed in the ground today and you get your fruit tomorrow, kind of thing.
4 months ago, when he said that they were going to revive Galana Kulalu, if you planted maize 4 months ago, by now you would be harvesting. They told us about fertilizer, and they said they are going to invest in production. They are going to subsidize production, not consumption. So they are going to bring in fertilizer. Now, that fertilizer, a lot of questions are there. We have fertilizer that was donated by the Russian government. So which is this fertilizer? And they're now selling it at 2,500. Is it sustainable? What if the donated stocks run out? Are we going back to the old prices? So this, to us, a lot of questions around it.
Okay.
So and many other things that have come up, including the arrangement that they were going to import cheap foodstuffs, edible oil.
Yes.
So that through Kenya National Trading Corporation, so that they can push down the cost of foodstuffs. You know what happened? It became an avenue for corruption. People who are politically linked to Kenya Kwanza got the tenders.
We know this as...
Yes, it's already, the matter is already in Parliament, being handled by the Trade Committee in Parliament. And even the Cabinet Secretary for Trade is implicated in it. So, and then it ended up being higher prices than even what they had anticipated. So, when we look at cost of living, and they tell us that they are going to address cost of living, we are saying no. You are using cost of living problem to try and perpetuate corruption. You are coming up with policies which are not sustainable. We want a sustainable arrangement that is corruption-free so that we reduce the cost of living in this country. And as Mio said, one of the options is subsidies. And they said, no, subsidies don't work. Today, we are being told the IPRA has reviewed petroleum prices palm prices.
And without a subsidy, we would have seen the price of fuel go up from the 194 shillings that is currently retailing for petrol, 179 for diesel, and 169 for kerosene. Had they not applied a subsidy, we would have seen the price of all of these products having gone up.
It will go up.
Right?
Now, they are saying it's no subsidy. They are coming up with a different term. They're saying it's compensation. It is subsidy because they're drawing money from the Petroleum Development Levy Fund. That has been happening over the years.
Okay.
Half of 50% of the Petroleum Development Levy Fund is now going into subsidizing petroleum.
Senator, do you think, and look at the case that has been made oftentimes is that if I come to you and I say that what you're doing is not sustainable, because here you are saying that, the cost of living is an issue, right? The election results are an issue. And I want to ask questions about the 15 million signatures and where those are going to go and who is going to then act upon that. But that will come. At this point, we've had a back and forth. Many would argue that the people of Kenya are the bait that is being used here to say that the people of Kenya are suffering because of the high cost of living and we need to do something about it in order to get them back on the page. Usually the role of opposition, and I think we've mentioned this over and over again, that the role of opposition, even when we talk about a problem that is being faced by the government of the day, is to either prefer what would be the solution if I was in the position, or at least say, this is what you're doing, remove it and add this other one. And I think that's the question. If we're looking at the cost of living, which is biting everybody today, as opposition, what would be a solution that you can say, let's use it? Because many would say that subsidies for government are expensive, that you have to provide money, because that's essentially what you're doing. You are putting money forward so that the people do not have to bear the responsibility of paying extra for it. Can the government today, where an economy is failing, can a government today, where globally there's an issue, afford to put money forward in order for the citizens not to thrive across board, whether it's agriculture, whether it's fuel, whether it is on tax, whatever it is? As you see it today, would it make sense to apply subsidies across board?
Well, one thing is that the strategy of Kenya Kwanza is to collect as much tax as possible. Increase tax and collect. That is their strategy. But I want to tell you that strategy will fail without proper social protection measures. It's going to fail because you cannot just collect tax without having the social or welfare aspect of it. And that's why we are saying that we need to really look at what are the various social welfare measures that should be undertaken to cushion Kenyans from high taxation, from high cost of living. And Azimio has talked about this. We have given solutions. And one of the ways of us giving solution is to go on a round table. Mm-hmm. And that's why we are saying, let cost of living be an issue to be discussed in the bipartisan talk.
How should we sort out, how should
and we'll be able to give our solutions there.
Okay, so here we are saying that there is an issue that all of Kenya is having right now. Why wouldn't that solution come from and say, this is what you ought to do? Why can't it be made public? Why does it have to be on the table whereby let's agree? Because if it's something that should be applied to Kenyans, why do two parties have to agree to that thing that can actually then just be made public and we go with it? If it is that simple, why not just say this is what we ought to do and agree on it in public? Why do we have to go through this 60-day thing?
Let me tell you, let me take you back. We went to the streets to demonstrate.
Yes.
Largely because the other side was not listening. They said they will not listen to us. Even if we tell them anything, they will not listen to us. We went into an election and they won, so they are in power, so they will not listen to the opposition. And we said, no, you have to listen to us. So that's why we went to the streets. Now we have an opportunity as Azimio and Kenya Kwanza to sit down and agree. And I want to agree with you, 60 days is a long period of time. Because even me, if I sat on that table, I know what I would propose to reduce the cost of living. So we do not need 60 days. And I want to encourage our team who are sitting on that bipartisan team to make sure that they take the shortest time possible, because Kenyans want solutions right away.
What would be an acceptable outcome of these talks? Because that's where we are. As we look at a year of these wrangles back and forth between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, because essentially that's what we are all seeing. That's what we all watch on a daily basis. What would be an acceptable outcome of these talks now that we are being held to have these conversations? What would be an acceptable outcome to say, okay, fine. The people of Kenya then would also be in it. What would make sense?
For me, the most important issues there are people issues. I know Azimio has 5 issues. Kenya Kwanza has 5 issues. The most important are people issues. First, the issue of cost of living. If they come up with acceptable measures to address cost of living, I'll be happy, and I'm certain many other Kenyans would be happy with that.
What's acceptable?
I mean, the cost of unga to go down. Unga is a basic thing in this country. The cost of essential foodstuff to go down. The cost of fuel to go down. In fact, the cost of fuel should go down. I mean, putting 16% VAT on fuel products plus the other levies is too high. I think they need to look at that and probably take it back to where it was, 8%. And then we'll begin to see prices of product going down, because ours is largely a fuel economy. So if we can manage the prices of fuel through reduced taxation, then that will reduce the cost of living. So for an ordinary Kenyan, he wants to see the prices of essential commodities going down. That will be acceptable. And number 2, high taxation. I know we had a battle over the finance bill, which has now become Finance Act, and the matter is in court. And the issues that people are raising are very valid. For example, the 1.5% tax on housing. It's, to me and to many Kenyans, is unnecessary. And the other day I was talking to the players in the water sector, water service providers, the water companies in counties, and I was saying they are going to review their tariffs to go up because of the 1.5% levy, because they have to pay 1.5% levy for their staff and 1.5% as an employer. So that, where are they going to get that? They are going to review the tariff. So the cost of water is going to go up. And also other essentials like cost of electricity will go up. So we are going to see cost of everything going up as a result of that housing tax.
And according to you all, there's something that can be done. Okay, let's take a break on that point and come back and continue that conversation. Godfrey Osotsi, who is the Senator for Vihiga County, is our guest this hour. And we're looking at Kenya Kwanza versus Azimio. As these bipartisan talks take place, the question remains, what then will be acceptable terms that Kenyans can come back to and say, yes, let us then move on. It's holiday season, and adventures like Zico, Go TV, kwa wengi, we're not leaving anyone behind, because we have good programs for children of all ages. We've got you covered. Kama Okoh, if you're a preteen and you're at home, watch Adventures of Ladybug and Cat Noir, Teenage Superheroes, Wazi wa Miraculous. The show airs every weekday at 4:15 on the Disney Channel. They can also enjoy Adventures of Henry Danger every Saturday and Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on Nickelodeon Channel 87 on Go TV Value. Let me also remind you that all roads lead to Nakuru County on the 26th of August for this year's edition of Choma Nangoma. It's Standard Group's premier music concert under the Radio Maisha brand that brings together food and music lovers for a night of fun and entertainment. It's all about food, music, and partying. The previous 3 editions had musicians like Yemi Alade and Pato Ranking. This year, Calligraph, Otile Brown, Nivri, Bensol, Nadia Mukami, Suru, and furthermore. Tickets are available on ticketsasa.com for 800 shillings. Remember, you can win a pair of tickets by sending the word Choma to 24338.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the situation room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nduthai, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again. Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say, you cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
All right, so cloudy conditions and clear in some parts in Nairobi at 14, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We'll see lows of 13 in a clear Nakuru, going to highs of 28. And 24 will be the high in a mostly clear Nyeri at 14, and it's 11 and clear in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 11. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 24, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 in a clear Malindi at 24. It's 19 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 31. 30 will be the high in a clear Kakamega at 16. Kampala is clear at 19, highs of 29, and 29 will be the high in a clear Dar es Salaam at 24. 6 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 21, and 29 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 24, and it's 22 and clear in Kinshasa, going to highs of 32. Okay, still busy in some parts, but the most traffic that we've seen this morning is on Landis, getting out towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. Some traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway, but negligible, because as you get past Survey and then past the Pangani underpass, you'll get into the CBD without too much of a problem. All right, as you're getting in from Jogo Road, if you came onto Lusaka and then through to the Likoni interchange, you'll be fine touching on the southern bypass. If you're getting onto Mombasa Road and then out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, there you're fine as well. Traffic is not an issue this Wednesday morning. In some parts, nooks and crannies here, but you'll be able to sort it out. As you're getting through from Cabanas towards North Airport Road, out towards the junction of Outer Ring, all the way through to the Thika Superhighway, it's Kaende, as we say. All right, not too much of an issue there. We just keep an eye on things. Let's see what happens closer to 9 o'clock. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's talk there and keep things moving this Wednesday.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
2 minutes to the top of the hour to 9 o'clock, and a Kenya Kwanza Azimio conversation happening this hour with the Senator for Vihiga County, Godfrey Osotsi. And coming from Senator, as we're coming off the break, one of the things you did mention, the number one thing you mentioned was that we still want to know the election results. Truth, according to you. So the truth is different from what we're currently seeing today. Is that what you're saying? That the truth of the situation may be different from the current situation?
Yes.
How so?
Well, we have contested the election, and we have very good reasons why we are saying so. You remember we also published the results for the election, which clearly shows that Honorable Raila Odinga won the election.
Results that you got from?
The results that he got from a whistleblower within IEBC. Mm-hmm. You have heard about that?
Yes.
And I know the Kenya Kwanza side contested and said,
of course,
no.
for them yet to be authenticated but in terms of how that came about.
But we have demonstrated that further by asking Kenyans who are displeased with this regime to sign the tumechoka.com list, and overwhelming 8.5 voters have signed so far, and our target is 15 million, and I can tell you we are going to achieve 15 million.
So the question then is, these 15 million signatures, to whom would they go, and for what purpose then would they serve?
Let me tell you one thing. If you read the Constitution very carefully, the preamble to the Constitution starts with we the people.
Yes, it does.
We the people. Meaning that the Constitution gives a lot of premium to the people of Kenya. Number 2, Article 1 of the Constitution vests sovereign powers in the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya can exercise those powers directly as the people of Kenya or indirectly through their representative. Through the representative in the executive, including the president, representative in legislature, including parliament and senate, and representative in the judiciary. Those representatives are only exercising secondary powers. They do not have primary powers. The primary powers vest in the people. Now, you know what happened during the voting for finance bill. The people's representative in the National Assembly
either did not show up or they actually voted to support the bill.
Either did not show up or some of them were bribed. And this was confirmed by none other than Honorable Osoro, who came out and said, I am the whip, majority whip. I know I gave some members the soup to vote for the bill. Some decided to hide within Parliament presence without appearing in the House to vote. Now, the Wanjiku was very disappointed that the people he has elected to go and represent him, to go and raise his concerns on the floor of the House were not there. So what do you expect Wanjiku to do? Wanjiku should be allowed to exercise the powers bestowed on the people of Kenya under Article 1 of the Constitution.
Maybe Wanjiku should also be asking a question about why those people are actually there in the first place, who should actually be representing their needs, and it's so easy to sway them. People on the Azimio side, Senator, who should have been able to fight tooth and nail for this Wanjiku that everybody keeps dangling about like a carrot, in my opinion, to say that it's the people that we're fighting for, it's the people that we're representing, at the point when the very people should have been fought for on the floor of the House, when you actually have the power to change things. They were not represented. Now we are calling on Wanjiku after the fact to come and fight.
You know,
when should it have been done? In Parliament. That's when it should have been done. It wasn't done.
You know, Parliament has been captured. I sit there. Even in the Senate, I sit there, and some of the things I see, I get worried. Not as a senator, but as a Kenyan, I get worried. The other day, we had a chance as a Senate to increase the money that goes to counties. Last financial year, counties got 370 billion shareable revenue. And this new financial year, we were given a chance to increase that to 407, increase that by 27 billion. And the Kenya Kwanza senators rejected that. They knew they were doing the wrong thing, but because of pressure from State House, from the president, they were called in a PG meeting and told, you must not support this. And they did exactly that. So whom are they representing? Are they representing the people, or they are representing their parties, or they are representing their party leader? That's the question. Same applied to National Assembly when it came to the finance bill. And I want to agree with you that some Azimio members actually either voted for the bill or stayed away or went were sponsored to go out of the country for a trip. And that is why Azimio, one of the issues that we are raising in the bipartisan talks is interference in political parties. You have seen the Jubilee side, the side that is led by Sabina Cheke, they were voted in as Azimio. But when they went to Parliament, they have switched camp. They are now in Kenya Kwanza. You saw UDM and Senator Roba. They have all switched camp and gone to the other side.
Were they forced, tied to a tree, tethered on a very short rope to be able to do this? Did the words come forced out of their mouths? This is my question, that in as much as we can say that Parliament has been captured, it's not the first time that those talks have been, those sentiments have been laid bare, right? It's been said before. But then are we seeing a situation whereby we're saying, oh, they have captured me, I cannot speak? Folks don't seem very upset to have been captured.
You see, in this case, you've seen the meetings. You live in this country. You've seen meetings in State House. Jubilee people have gone to State House. Some ODM members have gone to State House. And when they go there, they usually say one thing. We have gone to work with the president because we want development for our people.
In our area, yes.
We want development for our people. That has been the excuse. Then when they come on the floor, they don't vote according to the wishes of their people. They vote according to the wishes of the executive. And that is a problem. And that's why, as Azimio is saying, let us respect political parties. Let that be one of the agendas of that meeting. So that when you are elected on Party A, you are elected by the people on that Party A because they think you'll better represent their interest on that house under Party A. Then you go there, you change. You become Party B.
But doesn't that speak of you as an individual as opposed to your party? We've known from the very beginning, especially in Kenya, that party lines are not drawn on ideology. Party lines are drawn largely on an individual. The one who runs the party and the individual who is seeking for political office.
That is true. That is true. That is true.
Shouldn't it be questioned about the individual then that we are talking about here? If an individual is so easily bought, then one must question where their loyalty really lies. And maybe it's about time Kenyans started to ask, really, those who are said to represent me, if it is so easy to be swayed, if it is so easy for you to jump ship from one place to another, when we see it in Parliament, what guarantee is there that as you go to those talks, then that you will not be swayed in one way or another? What's the guarantee? We've seen it happen. What's the guarantee now? Because remember, we've been told it is Kenyans who are being fought for. It's Kenyans who are being fought for the cost of living, for Kenyans to know the truth, for something to be done for Kenyans.
I think I want to acknowledge your fears that we don't have guarantee that things will go the Mwananchi way. Those fears are valid. But I also want you to acknowledge the fact that we have come from far as Kenya. If you lived in this country longer, you realize that during those dark days of Kanu under Moi, situation was worse than what we have now. Because then we had one political party called Kanu, and there was no room for alternative views. And people fought, people went on the streets, and that's why we have Sabasaba.
But that's
and that's how we ended up having multi-party.
Isn't that the issue, though? That the zeitgeist at the time was that you could actually live in a position and you lived under fear, right?
Yes.
But guess what? The situation has changed, but individuals are still behaving as though the times are the same. That, you know what? I must vote in a certain way, or I must behave in a certain way in order for development to come to me. So this is the thing, that the mentality is still the same. So that for me, it's very clear to me, and somebody has to do a lot of convincing to convince myself and very many others that even at those bipartisan talks, the same mentality will not be all right. So what's in it for me? And you're not thinking about 50 million Kenyans who are waiting for you outside of those doors.
Well, that you can't avoid that. There are people who will still think personal. But I think this is a serious conversation we need to have.
Absolutely.
So that we have leaders who don't just think about their interests, they should think about people's interest. And, I started by explaining that though we still have that challenge, but we are making progress. You look at where we have come from. We fought for multi-party, we got it. We fought for, of course, there were others who went to eat ugali in State House. You can't miss such. Then we fought for a new constitution. There are others who fought it. but we got a new constitution. Now we are in a multi-party with a new constitutional order. There are challenges like corruption. There are challenges like interference in political party. So we are improving with the time. So talking about these issues and trying to do something is a positive way than not talking about it and not trying to do anything. So I think we need to give them a chance, those who are on the bipartisan team. I saw some very positive progress yesterday, that at least there was no push and pull. They have now sponsored a motion jointly, which was tabled in the National Assembly, to anchor that committee in law. Yes. When you see them meeting like yesterday, you see a bit of harmony. So we need to give them time and just see what comes out of it. But as I said, my expectation is that let the people issues be given premium. The issue of high cost of living, the issue of high taxation, and the issue of electoral justice. Electoral justice is not just an issue affecting politicians. It affects all of us. If we have proper electoral justice in this country, then people will not go to the streets. Then people will quickly settle down and start engaging in economic activity to develop this country. So it is an issue that affects the people. So for me, I look forward to some positive outcome of these talks, and that should not wait for 60 days. If they agree within a week, then let's move on and table those issues and let the country move on. They don't have to wait for 60 days to get things done.
You know, when you talk about the history that we have in this country, everything you've said reminds me of just one point, that when you achieve something politically, it doesn't mean it's the end. It means you now must prepare for new fights.
Yes.
Because having gotten there, there's the fight of maintaining what you've gotten and ensuring that you keep improving on it. Because I look at the government of Uhuru Kenyatta, the thing I remember them for most is how they bastardized Chapter 6 of the Constitution. They made sure that this accountability that Mheshimiwa is talking about was somewhat on paper, but you could not action it. They didn't obliterate it, but they essentially disabled it. So the whole process, whatever was intended to bring about accountability within the moral fiber of the country, once it is fractured, people then know that legally it is difficult for you to hold them to account. So essentially you've given them a free pass to do what they want to do, because they know very well there's very little you're going to be able to do about it. So essentially, it's like turning the tide. The very, very achievements that we're talking about, within a single and a second term of a presidency, you find that that particular win is slowly being eroded. And now we come to this particular government and we're saying we want to try and see how best we can actually retain those gains. You know, it always brings us to one question, Mheshimiwa, when we come here.
Yes.
Maybe you can help us understand, because you deal with fellow Mheshimiwa. What happens to people when they get to Parliament? Because there are a different set of people, even when you talk to them outside Parliament. When they get to Parliament, you wonder, what happened to these people? We have the most educated Parliament we've had since we became independent. Yet, everything that you see coming from there, you keep looking and wondering, surely. And I don't believe that they do not know what's happening in the country. They do know, because they live here.
It's all about a clash of interest. We have personal interest, we have party interest, we have government interest, and we have the people's interest. So what comes first? It's the issue. So that clash, in most cases, you find it's end up in personal interest. And that's the most unfortunate thing about it. But the good thing is that voters always have a chance to make a judgment 5 years later. And unfortunately, you find that the same people are elected back.
Mheshimiwa, that's the problem. 5 years is too long. If an error has been made, you want it compounded. You're essentially saying, we're giving you 5 years to compound this mistake that we're seeing you make. So by the time 5 years have lapsed, it won't be that small mistake. It'll be a monster of a mistake.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you. Yes. But I think it's something that we need to engage. And though I am for the idea that the bipartisan talk should focus on the people issues, but I think this other aspect that Azimio is bringing in, the issue of protection of political parties, I think is important for us to really give it a lot of premium, because that issue is arising from the fact that people are elected and then when they go in, they use all manner of excuses to switch camp. Like now, opposition in this country. Remember, we had that issue of who is a majority party in the National Assembly.
Yes.
And Azimio clearly on paper had a majority, more members than Kenya Kwanza. But our numbers were hit when people now were paraded in State House. And they left there and said, we have gone to work with the president because of development for our people. So can you imagine if entire opposition did that and went there? What will happen to the multi-party politics in this country? So this is a conversation that we really need to engage in as Kenyans, so that if you are elected on opposition ticket, remain opposition ticket. If you are elected in government, remain government. Because really, with the new constitution, there is no opposition and government in parliament.
There's majority and minority.
There is majority and minority. And essentially, everyone is supposed to be opposition, because you are oversighting the government.
Indeed. Do you think that the opposition, as it is currently constituted in Kenya, can actually achieve what an opposition ought to push government to behave in a certain manner, to do certain things, to behave in a certain way? And do you think that Azimio is ready, really ready, to take up that role?
Let me tell you, already Azimio has achieved quite a lot. They have put this government on check. And that's why they have agreed to sit and talk. We were just talking, before you walked in, we were talking about the decision by Kenya Kwanza to put subsidies on fuel. They said they will never do subsidies. Now they have realized they will not succeed without subsidies. They are calling it, they're using different terminology. They are talking about compensation. But it's just subsidy. So this has come because of pressure from Azimio. Now we are on the table, we are discussing, we want to discuss serious things like cost of living. That is a pressure from Azimio. And I think Azimio, they will succeed. What we are saying is that we need to remain consistent, we need to remain faithful, and personal interests should be put aside. And one strength that Azimio has is leadership. The leadership of Raila Amolo Odinga is what is going to make Azimio stronger and stronger as we head into 2027. So I am confident that opposition will add value to this country.
Do you think, I mean, just really quickly, as we're winding down to the end of this, that as we go into the, I mean, as the talks then proceed, going into the next, couple of weeks, couple of days, that it will be clear again that the people of Kenya are front and center of this discussion, and it is for their good that these talks are being held?
Well, as I said, let's wait and see. Before yesterday, I was worried because of the kind of statements that were emanating from the Kenya Kwanza side, particularly the co-chair of the talks, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, who was making fun of the talks. Remember, he said we should go to Nyayo Stadium and talk about the talks. We should make the talks live. And Azimio said, we are ready. Let's go to Kasarani. And said, we are ready. Let's make it live. And they changed. They now decided, let's go to Bomas of Kenya. And then at some point they said, we are not going to talk about cost of living. That is not an issue. We should not talk about it. We are not going to talk about the handshake. We said we are not interested in the handshake, but we are interested in cost of living. Because cost of living, they cannot run away from it. Remember, during the campaigns, they used to tell people that cost of living is the most important thing.
Well, let's see how I
remember President Ruto said people don't eat roads. The expressway is useless. People don't eat road. People eat food. Let us talk about cost of living.
Let's see how it goes, Senator.
We have taken the thing back to them and told them, let us talk about cost of living.
Let's see how the talks goes. Senator for Vihiga County, Godfrey Asoti, thank you for joining us this morning. Asante sana.
Thank you, Asante sana.
Good morning, this is Nizu. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Law Society of Kenya Trans Nzoia branch has expressed its satisfaction with the government's decision to release funds allocated to the county government on time. The branch chairperson, Walter Wanyonyi, has said that the move has resolved the tension between the national government and the county government, thus giving an opportunity to achieve development projects.
Hapo nyumaye kumekuwa na shida hasa hizi pesa za county government. Mwaka huu naona kwamba zimeweza kutolewa kwa wakati na nadhani kwamba hiyo inaonyesha kwamba kila kitu imekuwa ikienda sawa. Kija upande wa mahakama tunaona serikali za gatuzi zimekuwa zinafanya kazi bila mwingiliano, kukaja kwa na mazungumzo na pia kuna Council of Governors na committee ambayo inahusika na mambo haya yameweza kuangaliwa na sasa tunaona kwamba gatuzi umetekeleza kwa njia iliyo sawa.
However, I said there are still challenges facing devolution, including the need for a 2/3 gender representation as prescribed in the constitution and complete transfer of health functions to the counties.
1/3 gender rule tunaona kwamba bado haijatimizwa mpaka sasa. Natumai kwamba vile mazungumzo yanaendelea kati ya opposition na serikali, mambo haya yataweza kuangaliwa na tutaweza kuwa na full implementation ya 1/3 gender rule. Kuna hasa upande wa madaktari kumekuwa na malalamishi na wakati mwingine unaona wanataka kusema kwamba waweze kurudi. Wizara yoyote ni vizuri iwe na tume, kuna kitu kama separation of roles and responsibilities. Utapata kwamba kuna hiyo independence. Kuna services zingine ambazo zikatuliwa, utapata kama ofisi ya Attorney General hijafika kwa kaunti yote, lakini upande wa DPP utapata DPP amejaribu katika kila kaunti ofisi zake ziko.
The Sabaot community in Trans Nzoia and Bungoma counties are now asking leaders attending the ongoing devolution conference in Uasin Gishu County to make the creation of 5 new counties one of the agenda. The 5 counties are Mwingi from Kitui County, Mount Kenya Elgon from Bungoma County, Teso from Busia County, East Pokot from West Pokot County, and Kuria from Migori County, led by Francis Chamor. They said it is important in ensuring equal supply and devolution of resources among all communities in the county.
Mheshimiwa Rigiji enye anakuja kwa mkutano Eldoret apata ajue ya kwamba iko jamii Kenya devolution haifikii, aangazie sana sababu gani jamii zingine wanakuwa marginalized. Resources zinatoka Nairobi, hakuna kitu ndio inafanyika kwa jamii yetu ya Sabaot. In terms of development hakuna kitu, in terms of appointment kwa jamii hakuna kitu, in terms of culture jamii hakuna, people participation kwa maneno yote yenye yanakuja hapo hatuoni na hatujui wanaenda wapi, wanatoka wapi. Ndio sisi tunalia kama jamii, tunataka kaunti yetu.
History expert Peter Chemuset had this to say.
Kule Eldoret kuna devolution conference inaendelea ambaye sisi kama jamii ya Sabaot hatujawahi pata uzuri ya hiki. Pesa ambayo inakuja kwa devolution inakuja bilioni kadhaa. It is not benefiting this community. Na tunalipa tax kama wengine. Tunaomba ya kwamba kama ingeliwezekana sisi kama jamii tupewe kaunti yetu ili sisi naye tufili devolution. Tuandike watoto wetu. Tuko na graduates wengi. Hawaandiki popote.
Hii ni kweli haionekani. Tunaomba ya kwamba serikali watupe sisi our own county. Serikali iangalie mambo haya. Watu watalia hadi lini?
The Kenya County Government Workers Union have condemned an alleged push by cartels to disrupt the smooth running of Nairobi County. The union said faceless cartels, along with rogue county officials, were responsible for the destabilizing previous regimes due to their insatiable appetite for squandering public funds. The union also urged Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja to stand firm so that the county can make progress in delivering services to its people.
Tumeweza kuona kwamba hii ni njama ya makartels ya kuhujumu operations ambayo iko katika finance department. Kana kwamba ukihujumu idara ya fedha, county mzima itaweza kuanguka, sababu bila fedha hakuna ile mambo itakwenda. Na sisi kama wafanyikazi tumeona njama kama hii wakati imepita, na hizi njama ndo zilifanya hata ile serikali ambayo ilikuwa ya Sonko ikaweza kuanguka. So tumepitia haya na hatutakaa kama wafanyikazi tuone tena maneno kama haya ambayo inapangwa na watu nje. Sisi tumesema tumesupport ile maneno ya gavana wetu amekuwa akifanya.
Bodaboda operators in Busia County have blamed the County Commissioner Kipchumba Ruto for what they say is interference in the management of the union led by their chairperson Boniface Okoh. They claim that the Commissioner is contributing to the enmity among them. In addition, they asked Ruto to cooperate with the current leadership of the union. They have also called on the Commissioner to carry out his duties by dealing with cases of insecurity in the area. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Alcedo. Good morning.
Hey, what a conversation, what a good time we are having here for the morning vibe with you.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and there's traffic getting towards the tail end of it, coming out of traffic hour. It hasn't actually been too bad today. We've seen a little bit of it on the Thika Superhighway and on Jogoo Road. That seems to be coming to an end right about now. I don't think folks have been stuck anywhere today. Getting where you're going in and outbound has not been bad. Coming in from Westlands and then onto Mombasa Road as you get towards Uhuru Highway, that has also looked pretty good. So we've had a good morning. Let's just wrap it up in about half hour or so and see how that opens up later. Okay, let's talk in the meantime on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Mr. Moshedu, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you?
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, newshound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
And our guest this hour is seated. Peter Moshendu is here with us this morning, raring and ready to go.
Yes.
Rumor has it that you wake up very early in the morning.
Yes. If you wake up at 3 a.m., you will find me awake. Yeah, I think mornings are very good for me. Mm-hmm. But I also sleep very early.
You sleep very early?
Yes. So that I wake up in the morning. From 3 a.m., you can do so much when your mind is very fresh. And that's me.
That is very true.
Yes.
CT agrees with you.
I do.
Another thing that CT agrees with, even as we get into this, want to talk to those who are on holiday this August, and DSTV and GoTV have some fantastic things for you. It's the Holiday Adventures, Enjoyment Kwawengi, not leaving anybody behind, programs for children of all ages. Everybody's been covered, whether you're a preteen, whether you're watching Ladybug and Cat Noir, or whether you're watching Superheroes with Henry Danger every Saturday and Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on Nickelodeon Channel 87 on GoTV Value. *423# or download the My GoTV app and start to enjoy. Don't let these August holidays go to waste. There's a world full of adventure on GoTV this August holiday. All right, as we get into the hour and welcoming you, Peter, to this conversation, Siti has a proverb from Niger.
I do. A piece of wood that has been burnt easily catches fire.
Easily
catches fire. A piece of wood that has been burnt easily catches fire.
I'm not sure because nowadays you bring us quite very hard ones to talk about. That would be a definition of a charcoal, if I'm not mistaken.
Of charcoal?
Yes. Because that would be that piece of wood that catches fire easily. So I don't know exactly what to make out of that one. But as we go along, I'll give you a concrete answer. I don't just want to go ahead of myself.
But for now, it's charcoal.
Yes, it's charcoal.
And charcoal is good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Things are burning.
Especially now it's the cold season. Keeps you warm.
Keep things burning to be warm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a westerly direction, conversations are happening about devolution, isn't it?
Yes.
Everybody has, at least county stakeholders are all in Eldoret this week.
Yes.
Having conversations, talking about CIDPs for counties, planning and mapping the next 5 years, right?
Yes.
There are very important conversations that are going on.
Yes.
Interested parties and stakeholders are saying, look, folks, this is what we need to do. All of this contributing to the development agenda of the country at the devolved level, bringing it together to a national level. This is what needs to be done. However, some of those things that sneak in sometimes, accountability comes up, corruption comes up. You can make a plan, but if your accountability index and your corruption, if your accountability index is low and your corruption index is high, then we have a problem. Talk to us about some of the issues, obviously, that you have had when it comes to ensuring that accountability at the county level is high and that corruption is low, if not to zero.
I think that is one of the major challenges that has engulfed the counties in the last 10 years. If you look at perusal of pending bills that have not been paid by counties, every governor that comes in forms an inquiry committee to go and check at the pending bills that were left by the previous governor. You ought to be shocked that almost 50% of the claims that are being made for counties to pay, some of them are not genuine. I was partly involved in when the new administration came to Kiambu. I was in a place that I was able to see quite a number of few pending bills. You know, pending bills, people will bring their LPOs. They were given LPOs. They will bring documents showing that they did this work or they did that work. One of the person claiming to be paid in Kiambu, he had claimed to have done street rights in a place in LPO that got me interested because happens to be at the backyard of my village. So I wanted to go and ensure whether indeed there is street rights. And from the day Jesus was crucified to date, there has never been a street light done in that particular place. But you'll be surprised. There's someone who has a pending bill claiming to have done that work. And majorly this is the issue with accountabilities of those we have entrusted with powers in the county. They have seen an opportunity to create what we call fictitious pending bills. And you will find that, like for instance, in Kiambu, you have slightly over 5 billion owed to contractors and suppliers. But when you peruse some of these things, because if you have done street lights are not like service that they will disappear.
If you've done a
street lighting project, maybe it's not working, but it should be visible, it should be there. If you claim to have opened a certain road and did a gravel, as much as it will have dilapidated, there will be signs that indeed somebody had worked on this road. If you supplied a machine, an MRI machine or a microscope or whatever in a hospital, even if it is not functioning, we should find it somewhere within the hospital. And therefore, I find that most of these guys do not want to be accountable, because why would you select a committee that is going to peruse pending bills? As long as city comes with a back pass of 2 million shillings, you can always be paid for a fictitious pending bills. Most governors nowadays, how many times have you seen governors going out to the field? Most of them are enclosed in their offices trying to negotiate for kickbacks for those whom they found with pending bills in the county. And that's the most unfortunate thing.
Mushendo.
Yeah.
You make it seem like people are spending most of the days sitting, waiting for people to come and see them so that we can say, okay, this bill actually will be paid to you.
It's the truth. It's the truth. If you see most of the governors, and I say this with tremendous respect to COG and the devolution, most governors that are being seen out there in public are purely doing PR stunts. Let me ask you. In a county like Kiambu, where I come from, where there is a population of 2.7 million, as a governor, would you be concerned about delivering and giving 5 chicks to families in Kiambu rather than checking the health services that is deteriorating every day in Kiambu? You have 2.7 million people who want proper health services. Is it light for you to be going out there to do PR, going to give eggs to nursery schools, to give chicks? You find a governor in a place like Nyanza region where there is a lot of minerals and there is a lot of business that can be done, is so much concerned with projects that are supposed to be a PR kind of a thing rather than deal with the health service. Let me tell you, as the citizens of any county, 70% of any citizenry of any county will only encounter the county government services in a health center or in a hospital, because how many people have cars that they have to do parking in a county?
Minimal.
Very minimal. How many people have business in a county that they have to engage the licensing office? Minimal. How many people have companies that they would engage counties in terms of doing roads? Very few. If you come to my village, maybe there's 1 or 2 contractors, that's it. But sit here, you can go to visit. You may not, it could be you go to Nairobi hospital or whatever, but one way or the other you will go visit your mom, your aunt, your cousin or whatever. You will still one way or the other find yourself in a health center in a county. Therefore, as a governor, you need to look at what is at the center stage, at the interest of your people. Most of it is healthcare, road network and water. Those are the basic things. But you see, because governors have refused to be accountable, every governor that comes, and I'll tell you this is a sad thing, you talk about white elephant projects that were being done by national government previously. Let me tell you, come to counties. Go to, just randomly pick a county of your choice. Governor comes and he decides he's not going to finish the project that was started by the previous governor. I want to have my own identity. I want to do my own thing. You'll find a project that has been done, it has been abandoned because it was being done by a certain person. And that is the sad thing about counties. It is more about personalities rather than doing what is. Because if the previous governor came and started a hospital in my village, he did not start that hospital because it will benefit him in person. He started that hospital because it will benefit the people of Ndeya, where I come from.
Yes.
So it is the responsibility of the other governor who comes in to prioritize and finish that project. Today, one of the reasons why I believe that we need to come up with a way of ensuring that governors and county government are accountable to everything that is being done in the county, we need to establish a way that whether it is a law we will put, I don't know, that the governor cannot come and start new projects when we have pending projects that have not been completed.
Because what did we see yesterday? That at least the report that was then made public is that we're looking at almost 60 billion shillings installed projects. That's a computation around the country.
Yes.
We have some counties with as high as 4 billion shillings in installed projects uncompleted, and still we're looking at contracts moving forward for work need to be done. Do you think that governors, county executives ought to sign performance contracts just as the cabinet secretaries have done?
You'll be surprised this has been the practice. The CECs always sign performance contracts in counties. It is not nothing. It is not something new. But I'll tell you what is the difference between counties and national government. If you read the County Government Act of 2012, the one that was established to operationalize the new constitution and formation of the county governments, it depicts the governor as the CEO of the county, Chief Executive Officer. So when CECs sign performance contract, and then on the other side, governors do not give them an opportunity to do what they do. You see, the reason we are seated here, three guys in Spice FM, and you or him does not have written questionnaires from your bosses, it is because they believe in your capacity to be able to articulate a very good debate without being read. And unfortunately, in the counties, you have CECs sitting as rem ducks. They have no say. I mean, I'll give you an example, and you forgive me if I keep coming back to my county, because that is where I come from and I know. A minister of a CEC of the county government cannot even sign off something that is over 200,000 without consulting the office of the governor. Now, in Kiambu, we do procurement on a daily basis on an average of 80 to 100 million on a daily basis procurement. If you tell me that every procurement that is done has to go through the governor, are you not telling me that you will stagnate that county and almost bring it to a standstill? And it beats the question. When you appointed a CEC for trade, you provided his qualification in the county assembly, and you showed the county assembly that the man I am appointing to be in charge of trade has capacity and ability to deliver. Then it is your honors as the governor to allow that person, give somebody a responsibility at point A, wait for him at point B with results. But you find that most governors, I'll tell you, the procurement directors are more powerful than the chief officers finance, because the entire 80% of corruption in county governments is domiciled at procurement. And therefore, you will find most governors have provided an extra office in their headquarters for directors of procurement, because they want to be in charge and control procurement. But when things fall apart, the person who receives the blame is either the chief officer finance or the CEC finance. But in actual sense, you have a CEC and a chief officer who are rem ducks with zero powers to be able to do things. And that is the problem we have, that even if you have CEC sign a performance contract, how will he execute his mandate if he has not been given that leeway by the governor to be able to do that? That is the biggest challenge that we have. We have institutionalized small gods in the counties, and unfortunately, that is the truth.
So are you saying that then, Mushendu, that governors as agents, essentially, they are CEOs of counties, but they're agents of devolution? They are. But you know. But are they not, you're saying they are not seeing that through?
Yes, exactly. You see, the people who came up with the concept of devolution, they were more interested in devolving services to the people, not devolving power. It is devolving services to the people. If you look at the County Government Act of 2012, it provides a position of a village administrator. It is the position that is provided by law. The reason the implementers and the people who drafted that act were to make sure that even the smallest person in the smallest of village is able to get services for the people. Now, this is the problem. We in schedule, is it fifth schedule, we devolved the functions to counties, but instead of the governor doing the same and trickling down the same functions to the ward level and to the village level, they concentrated power in the county headquarters. Today, there is no village, or like in Kiambu and so many other counties, they have never appointed village administrators. But of course, that is subject of discussion to availability of money to employ those people. But at least every ward has a ward administrator. You will find that you have a ward administrator who is he's like a chief who is representing the office of the president in the village. The ward administrator is supposed to represent the county government administrative wing in that village, and he is in charge of any development that is brought by the county. His work is to work hand in hand with the elected MCAs to ensure development goes. But you will find most counties, these individuals are being paid to stay idle in the village because they are not being engaged. It's true. I was in 2 counties in the coast. The village, the ward administrator reports to work, and he will spend time playing some pools and playing some games with people because the governor has not seen it right to give him responsibilities. This is the problem we have. Governors have refused to devolve power as it has been devolved to them from national government, because if you have a ward administrator in a ward, he is supposed to be the man responsible for development in that area. But the moment you want to control everything, let me tell you, if you look at the controller of budget, how is money supposed to go to counties? Money is supposed to leave the controller of budget.
Yep.
And it's supposed to go to what you call the county consolidated account, main account.
Yes.
Where you have the chief officer finance, the person in charge of integrated financial management system of that county, the director of finance. These are the people in charge of that particular account. Now, once that money is received at the county treasury, it is supposed to be transferred to various departments in accordance with their allocation and how much they are supposed to be given every month to ensure their operations are gone. But I will give you an assignment to look. There is no single county in this republic that disperses money to departments.
Why?
If you are a chief officer for agriculture, you will have to do requisition directly to the chief officer finance. He does not give you the money. You know, one of the responsibility of you being a chief officer of a department, the responsibility number 1, you are the chief accounting officer. Of that department. These chief accounting officers of those departments in counties are never given money in their account. They have to line up at the office of their fellow chief officer finance to beg for money. Why do governors do that? Because they want to consolidate and control how money is spent in the counties. And that is the most unfortunate truth. Do you know why we are ending up with the pending bills? The chief officer loads, gives contracts to people. They go, they do. They bring their documentation right, but he has no money or authority to incur expenditure, because what is there to incur as long as money remains at the consolidated account? So he will go to do requisition to the chief officer finance. The chief officer finance will have committed money in another department as directed by the governor. So pending bills starting piling up and piling up. But imagine you have a 17 billion budget for the county. The Department of Agriculture has been budgeted 1.2 billion to be spending, say, like 150 million every month. What if counties were to do that transparency transfer, that when they receive their exchequer from the national government and they receive the authority to spend own source revenue, they subdivide money and give it to the relevant department? Why are health department deteriorating in counties? As a hospital, I'll give you an outlet. A hospital like Thika Level 5 that is in Kiambu, it has a capacity of generating 400 million shillings, 500 million shillings in revenue in 1 year.
Yes.
After having spent and everything. That money goes directly to the consolidated account of the county as it is required by the controller of budget. But it is the responsibility of the governor to now, once he receives that money back, to channel it back to the hospital it came from. But you will find a hospital like Thika generates 300, 400 million. It is taken to the consolidated account. The controller of budget gives authorization for money to go back to be spent by counties. Instead of being channeled to a hospital, it will find a pending bill of a road that was constructed, and the governor or the chief officer or whoever has a kickback promise of 5 million. So they will divert that money from going to the hospital and they will put it
somewhere else.
somewhere else. That is the problem that we are having in the counties in terms of accountability.
Let's take a break on that point and come back and say, okay, so, but if people can see these problems like this, the bare eye, what are we doing in Eldoret? It's a big question, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. It takes a break right now. Kenya's biggest conversation at 29 past 9 o'clock. Be back after this break.
Isangapi bwana Simba?
Isaya Zigen Shako.
Isangapi bwana Simba?
Isaya Garbage Boy na Trash Can.
Isangapi bwana Simba?
Isaya Henry Danger.
Kila saa ni saa ya fun na enjoyment na Go TV. Go TV kuna show za kubamba watoi wa all ages na familia yote. Furahia Garbage Boy and Trash Can kila weekday at 5:45 p.m. on Cartoon Network. Halafu ujinaize na Zigo and Shark at 6:45 p.m. on Cartoon Ito. Nayo weekendi ni ya kujinaize na Henry Danger at 6:45 p.m. on Nickelodeon. Dial *423# to get and stay connected to shows moto za kuchachisha August holiday. Go TV, love it.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
Some very nice, mature music.
It really took me back to my days, and I can just feel young again and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of Spice FM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice FM. Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. The government has prioritized the digital superhighway as a key driver for the country's transformation, creation of jobs and growth. President William Ruto said the government is inviting partners and investors to further expand high-speed internet access nationwide. This will ensure remote parts of the country reaps the economic benefits of the digital space in a cost-effective way. The Betting Control and Licensing Board has warned betting firms against using the speed dial browser internet feature due to the risks they pose to minors and other vulnerable persons. The regulator has given players such as Opera and others a period of 7 days to stop using the feature or face penalties. This comes after the Consumer Federation of Kenya last week accused Opera of allowing betting ads to run on its platform haphazardly. Kenyan CEOs drawn from various sectors are pessimistic about economic growth prospects amid several economic challenges. Some of the headwinds that will hinder growth the bosses listed as high interest, local political temperature, and the depreciation of local currency against major currencies such as the dollar. However, business executives are optimistic that declining inflationary pressures will spark growth in sectors such as agriculture, among others. Kenya Power CEO Joseph Sirora has linked the high cost of power to a number of tariffs that are factored into the final token purchased by customers. Sirora says that the final charge is inclusive of the cost of generation, transmission, distribution and retailing. Part of the charges are levies remitted to the energy and water bodies as well as taxes to the state. Wealth Financial Services is set to host Kenya's first investment forum targeting individuals in search of savings and investment knowledge and vehicles suited to their needs. Themed Unpacking Financial Wellbeing, it aims to foster financial literacy, provide insights into investment opportunities, and bring together key players in the financial sector to empower individuals towards financial security. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
On KTN News, welcome to our audiences there as well. Getting into the final part of this conversation, Devolution conference taking place in Eldoret this week, looking at important issues for the planning over the next 5 years.
Yes.
We talked about charcoal earlier. Choma na ngoma.
Yes.
Do you know what Choma na ngoma is? Choma na ngoma was founded in 2018. I just want to, let's just do a little bit of music and partying. This time it's going to Nakuru County, right? Previous editions have seen artists from across Africa come and enjoy an evening of food, music and partying. The date for this year's edition will be the 26th of August at the Rift Valley Sports Club in Nakuru. Calligraph, Otile Brown, Niviri, Bensol, Nadia Mukami, Saru and Father Moore will be lined up for very interesting and fun activities of music. Tickets are available on ticketsasa.com for 800 shillings. 26th of August, mark it down. Let's choma Nangoma this year. All right. Political analyst Peter Mushendo is with us today, and we are asking questions about what should devolution look like? What should actually be top of the agenda at the county level? CIDPs are top of the agenda right now, but you seem to think that the annual development plans should actually take over in terms of what should actually be done.
Yes.
Why is that?
CIDP are more of a vision. It's like Vision 2030 that we inaugurated a while back. How much have we done toward to Vision 2030? You can only be able to achieve Vision 2030 as you now narrow down to practicability for every session. I'll give you an example. To a pastor, the Bible is the most sacred book that reads his trade and what he does. As a member of county assembly, the annual development plan ought to be your Bible. Why? Annual development plan are the one that contains the exact projects that are being done in your ward. And if you stick and you ensure the governor sticks to that, we will eliminate the tokenism kind of politics where you need to go and beg the governor or you need to go and look good before the governor so that a project is done in your place. I mean, if we were to stick to CIDPs, we will not even need the award fund they keep talking about. Because when you're preparing the annual development plan, it involves public participation on understanding the needs of a certain wards. This is the projects we want. Then after people give their priority, we proceed to a level of prioritizing them on what is more important than the other for these particular people. And eventually, they will end up in the annual development plans that will be passed in the assembly, and they will be put in the budget. It will actually form part of the budget that is going to be implemented. And therefore, it means if MCAs can stick to annual development plans, you don't need to go and beg the governor for a project to be done in your ward. But this is the most sad thing. And I say this with as a worried man that quite a number of county assembly members have given a bad name to the office of the MCA. Because is it not sad if a governor calls an MCA and gives him a bribe of 5,000, 20,000 to go and vote against a good law, to go and vote against something that ought to bring a development? This is because let's not just do what we have been doing for the last nine years. Every year we have a devolution conference. Yes. We always measure on what has been good. But what we need to ask ourselves, whatever they say has been good against what they have been allocated and what they have achieved, can we actually, in real sense and in actual sense, say that we have succeeded in terms of operationalizing devolution?
You seem to say that what has happened is that corruption and non-accountability is what has actually been devolved.
This is it. This is the truth. Because let me tell you, if you have devolved health, which we devolved 10 years ago, from level 1, which is the public health workers, to level 5. All those are functions that have been devolved to the counties. It is the responsibility of the counties to be able to ensure that hospitals are working very well. But Do you have any single county where you have had a successful story about health? The only county that attempted to have a successful story on health was Kiambu during the Honorable Kabogo's first term. He actually put a very serious structure on health. In fact, it was part of features even made by this particular media house.
Makueni County here,
you see, Makueni County was a successful of one hospital called Makueni Level 5. You have never seen any single other hospital. But if you came to Kiambu, it's true. The facts are facts. They are very stubborn. If you come to Kiambu, the Honorable Kabogo had been able to operationalize Dhika Level 5. He found Dhika Level 5 and put ICUs, put theaters, about I think 2 of them, put a reproductive health unit that had over 200 beds, did a MRI machine and all that. He did not just stop there. He came to a hospital called Kiambu. It was a level 4 then. Elevated it to level 5 with theaters, with maternity, with every very good outpatient. Gatondo, the same thing. Actually spent quite a lot of money. One of the successful stories is Gatondo. In Gatondo, if you went there in 2015, 2016, they had been able to earmark the entire sub-county that they knew anybody with non-communicable disease in the entire ward. Yes. Anybody with hypertension, anybody with diabetes and everything. So we had started to put structures in place to operationalize things like health, things like road, things like ECD. But the question is, have you seen anything you can positively, with a lot of confidence and without fear of contradiction, say that this devolution has got it 100%?
Unfortunately, or I don't know, fortunately for your argument or unfortunately for the real situation on the ground, then we start to see stories now pop out of the woodwork. The most recent, with what we are seeing, allegations of corruption again coming out of Meru County with the governor. I don't want to imagine if this actually is the case, and then we're going back into have to, going before the Senate again and saying, look at what is happening here. If this happens and it's then in broad daylight, are we then able to make inference and jump and say, then if this is what you can see, is it possible that this is the picture then across board? Allegations coming out of Siaya County just a few months ago, what we see bring before the Senate now in Meru, what could be lurking in the shadows in other counties?
Yes.
Do you know one of the chief complaints you have? Okay, let's talk about the optics. If you look at the frequency with which health workers, I'm talking about health workers in general, attempt, threaten and wish to go on strike, the pay is, yes, one of the problems, but the bigger problem which they keep saying is they can't work. And the reason why they can't work, they don't have commodities. The equipment that they're supposed to work with are not functioning. Meaning, you go to work,
yes,
they are patients, but you are not able to do what you're trained to do simply because whoever is supposed to ensure that those things that you require for your work are there,
yes,
the things are not there. Now, unless we're going to say that these health workers are facetious, they strike at the slightest possible.
It rains, let's strike. The sun shines, let's strike. But it's cold, let's strike.
But when you look at every time they're striking, you're talking about 3 months, and you're thinking 3 months. People haven't been paid. 3.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yes. So you have to ask. And then the problem that they're talking about with regards to commodities, with regards to equipment, it's the same. And those ones are even longer than 3 months. You can't do what you're supposed to do because whoever is supposed to have enabled you to do it hasn't done it. Now, it can't be that all these complaints we keep hearing are just, if I may say so, hot air. The complaints must emanate from someplace.
I'll tell you, one of the major issues, if you looked at, was it, who was the last Council of Governor chair before Igoro? Was it Wambo? Cannot be Wambo.
I don't remember. It was. We will remember.
If you remember them on the steps of the Council of Governors headquarters here in Westlands, they kept complaining that there was a drain disbursement of exchequer from the national government.
Yes,
that is the reason why they have not been able to do. At that 30th of June, in the year 2023, the government of the Honorable William Ruto did not owe any county a single cent for the financial year 2022-2023. For the first time since we started Devolution 10 years ago, by 15th of July, every county had their allocation for July dispersed.
So they could not complain.
They could not complain. I've told you right now, some county assemblies like mine, MCAs have not been paid. Employees who are permanent and pensionable are yet to receive their money. Well, when it comes to Casio, the issue of salary getting rate is always gonna be there because it is manual payment and what have you. Somewhere, some other place where governor have found a way to steal money because of the manual register. You will find that in the Casio register, you will always have over 1,000 people who do not exist anywhere in the world, but they get paid.
Peter.
It's look at the controller of the Auditor General's report for the financial year 21-22.
Indeed, she did mention.
Look at it. No single county, one. All the 47 counties had an issue with what he called ghost workers.
Yes.
Governors have perfected the art of every time they join that seat, they will say that there has been an exaggerated workforce in the county. We need to reduce wage bill. So in a way, he gets rid of like 2,000 people, 2,000 names, and slowly but sure continues replacing them one by one. And he will wake up in the morning, come to Spice and say, I found a bloated wage bill. But he continues to add people. That is the practical happenings in every single county. Today, there is a bit of success with devolution, a bit of it. But we cannot every year do devolution conferences and measure on the small things that have happened and not talk about the corruption that has engulfed our counties, and it is killing our counties. Is it fair that we spend 50 million shillings to operationalize a 15 million project? Does it make sense?
No, Peter, it doesn't make sense. But actually, what you're saying with regards to what you have informed us was the Honorable Kabogo's success story. It stands to reason. The things you say, one can see. If you doubt, you can go and visit and you can go and see it for yourself.
Yes.
There are a few governors who, for instance, in this term, have attempted to deal with this thing we keep talking about, pending bills.
Yes.
And I like quoting Mombasa.
Yes.
Because you do not hear complaints. It means he has a plan and people are getting paid.
Yes.
Now, if one county can do it, it means the others can do it.
They can do it. Yes. Even don't go Mombasa, go to Murang'a. Here. Just exit Nairobi, get into Murang'a. Irungu Kangata. He's attempting to do it. You have not, in this dispensation, you have not had a single complaint from Murang'a County. No. Irungu came to the president and told him, I want to see whether universal health care can work. So I want to start a program called Kangata Care that is doing very well. I have a friend who has now benefited with their mom being taken to India and Kangata Care paying 500,000 shillings for part of, they cannot actually cover everything, but being given a head start of 500,000 shillings is a lot of money coming from a county government.
Yeah.
So Irungu Kangata has shown that if we put a little bit of effort and we become better organized, we can actually perfect the art of Kangata Care anywhere else in the world. Because let me tell you, I saw a young Nyongo, and I'm proud of that man, being operated in a county hospital as a governor. He is trying to tell my people, look, we have built this hospital to a level that I do not need to go to Nairobi hospital. I don't need to go to Aga Khan. And he was being given a very serious operation. It was not one of the simple bypass. It was quite a complex operation that was done in the level 5 in Kisumu hospital. That tells you that man has put the necessary effort to ensure that that hospital meets the quality that his people needs. You know, I look at it. Governors come and they start. I have seen my governor in Kiambu has a project of updating level 3 and level 4 hospitals.
Yes.
And then I ask myself, it is a good thing you want to update, but how many level 4 hospitals do we have in Kiambu that have not been completed? That can actually do, because let me ask you, if city you come from Deya Ward, she comes from Limuru East and I come from Limuru Central. All these are wards within Limuru constituency.
Yes.
You have a level 4 hospital called Tigoni Level 4 Hospital. Why would you want to go and construct a new level 4 hospital in Deya Ward? When you have one level 4 hospital called Tigoni, you can actually upgrade and it will serve the intended purpose for that particular sub-county. And that is the problem I have said, because when Kabogo left, he left a building that was 5 stories in Lari Level 4 Hospital that needed to be completed. Another governor decided that I will not complete that one. 6 kilometers from now, Babayao started Bibilioni Level 4. It is still a shell.
So, Moshado, there is a duplication.
This is it.
There is a major duplication.
This is it.
And then now when we're having these conversations about the equitable share that should go to counties, then maybe there's a case for the reduction of these monies.
You know, I have a feeling that, I have a feeling that governors are not coming to do what they intended or the Mwananchi intended them to do, because I have a belief that Kabogo, we have a 4th governor in Kiambu, for instance, where I come from. We have 4 governors. We are unique. We are unique. Two electioneering terms has produced 4 governors. It's very interesting. It tells you governors have not served to their full term. So somebody came and started a hospital 10 years ago. But I have a 4th governor today. That particular facility has never been completed. But it is not just not being completed. He has done 2 new facilities that are yet not completed within the same vicinity. And this is the problem we have. And I think we need to have a structure where if today's city becomes the governor, he cannot come and start a new hospital before completing the other hospital, because it is. I'll give you an example. If you go to Tigoni, we spent about 400 million doing that hospital. The structures are complete, but it has not been equipped to the level it should. That is with the health services and the workers and what have you. You go to Bibilioni, that is about 7-8 kilometers. We have done a structure of 6-story structure, and we have put about 256 million. It is lying there. It is doing nothing. 7 kilometers from Bibilioni, you go to Rari Level 4. A 6-story structure that was started by Kabogo, it is there. It is standing, nothing. 17 kilometers from Rari Level 4 to Githunguri Level 4 that was initiated by the former First Lady. It is there, it is not serving people, it is not working.
And this is one county?
This is one county. You come from Githunguri 17 or another 18 kilometers, you come to Roiro Level 4. You have a structure there that is not complete, it is not helping anybody at all. Nobody. This is it. You come to Kikuyu here, we are just a few kilometers. We have a structure started by Kabogo. Nobody saw the need to go and finish that structure, because especially Kikuyu Township is very populated. They need a hospital. Nobody has done it. But now, you have a governor who has come. I don't want to do anything that was done by other governors. I want to update level 3 to level 4 hospitals. But as if you count the structures that I've told you, we have over 1 billion laying idle, not helping anybody. This is money that was allocated to county to help the people of Kiambu. It has not materialized into what they would have come. And I would tell you, and I dare tell you, this is the replica of almost every county in this republic. And this is the problem. I have seen the President Ruto come and say, we want to finish the roads that our first started.
Yes.
And they have allocated 250 billion, over 250 billion to complete roads. I have seen in Kenoe and in our press, the contractors have come back on site. This is the kind of thing we want, because that road will continue helping those people. If the former governor or the former president, Uhuru was not constructing a road in Deya Ward where I come from so that he can use it. It was meant to help the people of Ndeya where I come from.
Do you think, I mean, look, obvious, I mean, it is clear that these are issues. Like you said, this is a replica of what is happening across the country.
Yes.
So when you come every year at around this time in August and have a devolution conference, we're essentially just putting a coat of paint on a rotting building.
A devolution conference of nowadays, I would equate it to, you said Choma and what?
Choma and Ngoma.
Choma and Ngoma. It has yet yielded any fruits since we started doing. I'll give you an example, and I invite you to look at the program of the devolution conference that is currently being opened by the president as we speak. That program does not have a role for an MCA who is a very key person in devolution. In that program, hakuna pahari MCA anaongea. The CAF, this is the organization for MCAs, has not been allocated time in that devolution. Yet, these are the representative of the people for the implementation of devolution. They have not been allocated time in the devolution conference. 0. Number 2, have you seen common people who are supposed to be singing about devolution being allocated an opportunity to go and talk about successes in their places? You'll be surprised. It is only governors who will chest thump. It is of governors who are going to self-praise. This is what I have done. This is what I am doing. This is what I'm going to do. When we do a devolution conference, it is time for us to reflect. 10 years of devolution, what have we achieved?
And if we have not achieved,
and if we have not achieved, what has stopped us from doing it? A devolution conference is not just to talk about the successful stories. It's also to touch on where we have missed the mark and what has caused us to miss the mark and what is it we can do to ensure that we will get where we want. That is the true meaning of a devolution conference. But I'll tell you, and I challenge you because you are in media, let me see someone who is going to talk about the ills that has engulfed devolution conference in that devolution. Even the speakers that will be invited, I think the only person I expect to challenge them hands-on would be the president or the deputy president.
When he's supposed to speak today,
yes,
one of the issues that he wants to bring up is this health, this very thing that you've spoken about and talking about, the duplication, the excesses, the wastage when it then comes to, like you said, it would be him to say something like this, but health is one of the major issues at the county level, which should actually be doing a lot better than it is doing. Unfortunately, like you are saying as well, governors will not be the first ones to point them out because of these things that we are seeing.
The true position, and I stand by this. One of the canon mistake we made when we were devolving, it is true, counties have worked. But it cannot be that counties that had a successful, you see, like Kiambu, we are on our health services is currently on the deathbed. But when Kaboko was there, it was doing well. It cannot be that health services will operationalize because of individuals. There has to be structures that have been to be put. And if you ask me, at the risk of being fought by every governor that is reasoning to me, I think we ought to have and form what is called, I do not want health to go back to the national government. Neither do I want it to be held by the county. I think it is time we start having a discussion of a health commission in this republic that will be in charge with health, because the moment we have allowed health to become political, it is where we are missing the mark, because governors have decided they want,
Peter, you're suggesting that just like we do not have an armed forces that is domiciled in counties or a police force.
Yes.
But you have a body that serves the entire country.
This is it. Because I'll tell you, one of the most important, and I have seen that is causing a lot of people pain, it is not road networks. It is not even water. Water is important, but people somehow always get a clean water somewhere in Kenya. You cannot say that no single person does not have a single access to drinking water. But health has become a menace. If I show you this WhatsApp, how many groups raising fund for people to go to get specialized treatment, it tells you we have to do something about our health service now, and that is a problem. Otherwise, we want. You see what I'll tell you. Even the president knows that governance needs to be pressed. Like now, the president is doing what is called the county aggregation industrial parks. Know what governors have been? The county is producing 250 million. The national government is doing 200, match the same. Now, because governors are known to be cheeky, they have been asked to do special fund accounts for the project. That every time you get your exchequer and you get your own source revenue, you put your money for that project in that special account, so that we do not have a problem. Because those county, as I remember last year talking about industrialization, it is one of the things that is going to revolutionize the economy of the people in the village. And I hope that one way or the other we can realize this project and help our people get value for what they farm.
Somebody needs to crack the whip, that's for sure. Yes. And this is very, again, it's necessary for us to keep these conversations simmering. They have to be, and that people are aware of exactly what's going on. It would be nice if we saw a different outcome by the time another year rolls around. Peter Mshendu, always a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for being here to point out some of these very important matters. Thanks, folks, for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation on yet another day. It's coming round to the top of the hour, and we'll be back here at 6 a.m. tomorrow to talk some more.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire Dennis Aseto. Public Service, Affirmative Action and Gender Cabinet Secretary Aisha Juma has gazetted a 17-member multi-agency team to actualize the elusive two-thirds gender rule principle. Through a gazette notice, Juma cites the constitutional provision that calls